Welcome to episode 27 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Craig. Craig, would you ever replace me on this podcast with a dog?
No, mate, never.
Good. Okay, that's the answer I was looking for. Because as you would know, with our conversation with John Garcia from Soldiers for Wildlife, it turns out that the dogs they've got on the ground there are pretty switched on, mate. So I really am grateful that you're allowing me to stay. All right, do the funky music thing, brother. Thank you, as always, to our regular podcast sponsors for their support. Topo Maps Plus, a phone application that allows you to view topographical maps and track your location even without cell phone coverage. Go deeper into the backcountry. Rios floating polarized sunglasses with 100% UV protection for the love of water. Bluey Merino, Australian superfine merino wool base, mid, and top layer garments. Where our story ends, yours is just beginning. Caribou, one of Australia's leading backpack, travel and outdoor brands. They supply us with dry bags, waterproof day packs and expedition bags. Supporting our sponsors allows us to continue to produce this podcast, so please jump online and check out what they have to offer. Welcome everybody to another exciting podcast, one that was absolutely fascinating to record. Craig, how are you, mate?
Hey, Tom, I'm great, mate. I'm really glad to be back here doing some more podcasts, and yeah, we had a great chat. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, this was good. I think I was kind of thinking about it on the way here, and I thought I'd explain what's up with us, and that is, what we've kind of done is we've released the podcasts around when we can meet with international guests and get things out after that. But something that we've started doing recently, because I don't know how to put it, we've been a little bit dictated by other people's time frames. And so what we've decided to do is just strike while the iron's hot, get the interviews in the bag, and then come back later on and give us the news and the updates and a little intro. And I think this is the first of many. It certainly means we'll be able to bring you more podcasts, but it also means we should be a little bit more switched on because it won't be 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, this is a nice way to do it for sure, mate.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes anyway. But hopefully, the end goal is you guys get more awesome guests more often. And another thing that'll probably happen is we'll probably waffle on a little bit less at the start.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And seems to be...
Well, I've got something to share with you.
Oh, okay. This is good.
Yeah, well, it's not good. I don't know if it is good.
Oh, okay.
No, it is good. It is very good. Remember, I've been switching on to a podcast. It's called the Bring Back the Warrior, and listening to that. It's an awesome podcast. You guys have got to check it out. And there was one part where Dwayne was talking, and he thought it was insignificant, it could have been insignificant that he just decided to value just some small moments with his kids, and he decided to fix up the basketball hoop. And then just encourage.
I listened to that episode.
Have you heard that too? Yep.
Yeah. So he's an upcoming guest. If you're wondering why we're kind of pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's right. He's awesome, and I realized that just that quality time of just playing a bit of hoops with his kid made me think. And so lately at night, after dinner, I've been getting the kids dressed up with their head torches on, and we've been going out at night walking through this little bush tracks out the back of this place.
Yep.
And spotting owls and possums and I tell you what, mate, I've been worried about the kids spending a bit much time on their iPads and stuff.
Yeah.
It's been the best thing. They get so excited when I say in the morning tonight we'll go on a bushwalk. After even tonight when it was raining, we put raincoats on and went out in the rain.
Yeah, that's
and,
fantastic.
I'm loving it. So yeah, just a little thing. Maybe if you guys have got kids that you just need to connect with, just take them out in the evening when it's dark and just dig out your old head torches. That's what I did and gave them all one.
The old
one each.
The ones that I've upgraded.
And oh man, and then it was stealth mode. They turned their torches off for a little bit. It was really cool. So we've had some great fun doing that.
No, that's fantastic. And you don't need to have access to what we've got access to. You can literally be in a small backyard and you'd be amazed how much you'll see of an evening, no matter where you are in the world. But also there's things like local parks and places like that are worth walking down to, and you're guaranteed to see something. If nothing else, you see the world from a different perspective when there's no light. And with my boys, I think it's been quite an education to demonstrate to them that the world's exactly the same place, except it doesn't have light refracting off things. So where I'm going with that is that kind of fear of the dark sort of space where they're scared at night. And I say, well, you need to understand that everything at night's not scary. And the last time we went camping as a family, I did two night hikes, two nights in a row, and took all three boys, and they were just, we saw so much cool stuff. These beautiful frogs. We saw a massive python cruising around, and we did what you said before, and at one point we just all turn off our head torches, let our eyes adjust and see what we can actually see, and pretty soon they kind of understood that, yeah, it's the same relatively safe place, but it just doesn't have light. So yeah, that's been interesting. That's cool, man. I'm glad you're doing that. And
just inject a bit of quality time there.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be. I think that's what so many people try and plan some big epic thing on the weekends with their family, but we're forgetting. And your point and to the point that Dwayne made on that podcast is 20 minutes is quality time.
Yes,
kids don't care about you putting in all this effort to go to some special place that makes you feel like Father of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Kids care about 20 minutes digging a hole in the garden.
And he,
stick.
I guess, and he said, find your 20 minutes with your kids instead of, like, I've been at home with my kids, but not so much doing something together like that. And so, yeah, I think I really got a lot out of it, and encourage you all to look for that little special moments. It's good.
That's great. We got out to our local trails on Sunday morning, a whole lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
And, that I remember a few podcasts ago, it was quite a few podcasts ago now, we saw a dingo down there, down at that spot.
All right.
So, we went back down and took a few different trails. They're real keen to go find new trails, so I took them a different way so that we were only going down fresh trails, and they love that. And we stop and have our snacks and our drinks and talk about everything known to man, and then they fill their pockets with interesting rocks and stones, and
and
then we walk home with all that stuff and
bring stuff back for sure.
But it's cool. It's such simple way to spend a few hours, and I guarantee you that it's the best time you'll ever spend.
Yeah, that's dead straight. Simple pleasures, mate.
Probably just end the podcast there, eh?
Yeah.
Done and dusted.
That's enough.
We are fueled tonight by the Coffee Works, and you can find them at coffeeworks.com.au. What have you got there, Craig? Dark Mountain?
Yeah, Black Mountain.
No, it's Black Mountain. Sorry.
Yes.
Black Mountain.
I thought it just broke my coffee machine. It's so good, but it didn't. I tried to make this massive shot, and it made it.
Yeah, no, it's absolute cracking coffee.
It's awesome.
Very kindly supplied to us here to keep us going through the night. As I said, find them at coffeeworks.com.au. They also make fantastic chocolate. Craig, you can testify to that.
Yep.
Did you get through all of that?
Yeah. I
think
did.
Mine was gone in about a day, if not two.
I actually, Anna took some and I didn't even get a bit of it.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you get any of the chocolate-coated coffee beans?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Oh, they are exceptional.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I smashed those down. So, yeah, very kind of those guys to keep us awake. Thank you very much. While I'm on a roll, to all of you bearded gents out there, and ladies, that's fine. I don't mind. We are also sponsored by HikeordieAustralia.com. They make handmade beard grooming products from all natural ingredients. We've spoken about these guys a couple of times before. I'm getting to the point where I am starting to run out of the particular beard balm, and I'm panicking, mate, because it's so damn good. I put it on every morning after I have my shower, and a little peppermint oil, and yeah, it kind of lasts the whole day. But I'm starting to stress, so I need to hook up with those guys again. But the exciting thing for you is if you go to their website, HikeordieAustralia.com, on checkout, you can use the promo code HikeordieTV, that's one word, all capitals, and you get 15% off your purchase. Doesn't matter what it is. Oils, waxes, shampoos, conditioners, beard balms, beard butters, anything. It's good news. Support our supporters. We really appreciate it. You know what's next, Craig?
No, tell me.
I've got to do the quiz because it's a new thing.
Oh, the new quiz.
I've got to tell you the quiz so that you can stew over it the
now.
entire podcast. Well, not the entire podcast, but a large
answer at the end.
This one's a multiple choice.
Okay, hit
me. Which it wasn't last time. So yeah, one of our listeners, for some reason, decided that I'd be a good person to ask for some questions for their trivia group. And so I gave him 2 questions, and then when I wrote back to him, I said, it's actually not a bad idea to drop these into the podcast, give people something to think about and learn something at the same time. Okay? People love learning. This is free. You might know the answer to this, Craig. In fact, I think you do. So you need to keep a pretty stoic, calm, just don't react to any of the multiple choices, okay, mate? So the audience can play along. I don't want you setting them off on a tangent. Do you get it?
There's a bit of pressure here. Okay.
Yeah, there's a bit of pressure. Just don't say anything, or I don't want to hear, yes. Oh, that old one. Rubbish. All right, here we go. And I'll try and say it all in a very calm voice so you can't pick.
Here's my poker face, right?
Yeah, it's my poker voice. Alexander Pierce was an Irish convict sent to Australia in 1819 for the theft of 6 pairs of shoes. So far, that's 100% correct. He was most famous for A. Going on to become a high-ranked and influential military officer in Australia's history. B. Opening his own cobbler's store in Sydney after his release, which later became the iconic Pearson Sons brand of boots. C. Escaping from the penal colony on 2 occasions and eating his fellow escapees while they made their way back to civilization, later gaining him the nickname of the Pie Man. D. Discovering the only passable route through the Tasmanian mountain ranges, opening up communication and trade that was previously not possible on the island. Or E. Escaping from the penal colony, only to be captured by an indigenous tribe, who later befriended him and allowed him to live out the rest of his days with their tribe, becoming the first person to truly bridge the gap between the respective communities. There you go. I leave it with you.
Very interesting, Tom.
Do not let me forget to clarify that one at the end.
I'm not going to comment on any of that, but
no, you can't.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll learn something, I think, by the end of this. Thank you.
That's all right, mate.
It's possible.
Hey, I've got an amendment, and you actually picked me up on this in the last podcast, and I said, shut up, Craig. You don't know what you're talking about, man.
That's not uncommon.
No.
So
it
what
was,
which exact
one? There's probably many.
which time?
This is the one I'm prepared to admit to.
Right.
I spoke about the bus, the iconic bus that they've now removed. It was associated with the film Into the Wild. It's where Chris McCandless died.
Yep.
I was very adamant that 4 people had... there was 4 deaths associated with hikers trying to reach the bus. And you said at the time, you actually looked it up and said, oh, it looks like there's only 2. And I argued and argued like a fool. And instead, I think there's 2 pairs of people. So there was the 2 deaths there is only 2 deaths. You're 100% correct. And they appeared on 2 separate occasions. So that's where I got confused with the 2 pairs. Only one of the pairs died each time. And my understanding is both of those were at the river crossing. So anyway, so anyone, I just don't want people walking around arguing with their friends, or if they were at some trivia nights and someone said, how many deaths have been associated with the Into the Wild bus? And they say, I know this one. I'll bet my house on it that it's 4 because Tom said it. You'd be wrong. The answer's 2. Craig had it right the whole time. Perfect segue into a little safety video that I found. Obviously, silly question. You know Mount Barney.
Yep.
Mount Barney's a pretty formidable little peak, only a couple of hours from us here. Very popular with all sorts of climbers and hikers because you can traverse it in an infinite amount of ways, from really steep cliff faces to just scrambling and hiking. I guess what you call it, national parks and Wildlife put out a really cool little video. I think it only goes for about 4.5-5 minutes. And I think it's very difficult for organizations like that to put out safety videos that A, people watch, and B, they find it semi-interesting, and C, they actually, listen to it and take on some of that knowledge, okay? But they've just done a real simple video. It's just rangers talking to the camera. It's a local police officer who's involved in all the rescues, and I think an SES, which is our search and rescue guys. Real simple video. I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's on the show notes page. And if you're heading down that way, I just recommend you just check it out. Spend 5 minutes and check it out, because there's been many occasions I've considered putting this one on the list. Both Craig and I have hiked in and around the area, but we've not done the peak. And I'm in 2 minds. Like, every time I think about it, I do a bit of research and think, no, that's pretty full on. And watching this gave me some more things to consider before I go running down there on some silly solo trip.
Yep. It looks pretty difficult. A couple of my friends posted their summit recently, and I got a little jingle to go again and perhaps do it. What are your thoughts after watching that video, mate? Do you reckon you and I could do it, or we'd need a guide? What do you reckon?
It's tough. I'm still 50-50. Could we do it? Probably yes. Could we do it safely and calmly? Not so sure. Would it be good to have somebody there who had done it once or twice before?
Absolutely.
Yes, it absolutely would. Just put a certain calm.
And confidence.
And confidence. And a lot of things they say is people start going the wrong way, and that gets them into all sorts of trouble. And what you don't want in places like that is to get cliffed out and not be able to go forwards or back, things like that. So,
yep.
Yeah, not too sure, mate. I don't want to give a definitive answer on that. I will get up there one day, but it just depends who with.
Nice.
Yeah, because why would you want to go anywhere as a solo hiker? I found this article on National Geographic, and normally I kind of have a bit of a look at these articles, and then I just move on because they just regurgitate the same information. And make sure you carry this and make sure you carry that. And okay, we've heard that 100 times. You've certainly heard it 100 times from the two of us. But this one, they were talking to this guy called Andrew Harrington. He's not only a survival instructor, but he's also a search and rescue team leader. In particular, he works the Great Smoky Mountains National Park area. So the good thing about this article is they've actually talked to somebody on the ground, and I'd recommend having a little read over it. It is specifically about day hikers, and it says that statistics show that they are the most vulnerable in survival situations. Wandering off the trail is the number one reason ahead of injury and bad weather, and that's why they require the search and rescue teams. The study is from rescues of over the last 25 years. 41% of the survivors began their odysseys, which ranged from half a day missing to 90 days missing, by accidentally straying from the trail. Another 16% fell off the trail, couldn't find their way back. I'm not sure if that's literally or if that's a bit of a hiking term, like I fell off the trail. In other words, I lost the trail.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite work that out. I mean, there's been you remember that time I fell off the trail?
Yeah, I was thinking of that just then.
At Bulls Falls.
Yes, definitely.
I fell right off the trail.
You sure did.
I was like a turtle, but not a ninja one. And Craig had to grab me and drag me back off this 6-7 foot ledge.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You were using your hiking pole like a ninja.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the research also suggests that, almost definitely backs up, the vulnerable group is not hikers who are going deep into the wilderness and they've got all their backpack and they've got all their equipment for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. They're not the ones that are at the highest risk. It's always the day hikers. And as they put it, they're more likely to throw a camera in the bag instead of something like an emergency bivvy or a rain jacket or just the things that a mini kind of first aid kit, things like that. Oh no, I won't need that. I'm only going out. I'm doing this trail. It's going to take me 2 hours. I don't need that.
And so they're pointing the finger at solo day hikers. Is that the point?
No, not solo, but solo did come up. Definitely did come up in their
higher
studies.
risk, I guess.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, because obviously, if you're solo and you do get lost or injured, there's absolutely no chance of, I'll wait here and you go and get help. It's well, I'm just here, and if I don't have phone reception or a personal locator beacon, then I'm pretty much stuffed until someone finds me.
Whereas if we're on a overnight at least, or a double day, a multi-day, then you've got heaps of stuff in your pack that can support
food,
you.
You've probably
shelter.
got water, you've got shelter, and probably, as they've mentioned, probably more communication access.
Mm-hmm.
We're more likely to have a PLB.
That's why you see me go on day hikes with a 60-litre pack.
Yeah. I mean, I'm up to 80. Everything in there. Got tents, everything. But it did. It was a very good article, very well put together, and just some of the statistics they were throwing out was really cool. What about this one? Of our 100 search and rescue incidents a year, 90% are day hikers.
Oh wow! Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's staggering. And it all just comes down to they have the mindset that they're only heading out for a short amount of time. They don't take anything beyond that, and then they get in trouble. And as he says in the article, you might think, oh, well, it's going to mean a cold night sitting there. But he says if you've ever stayed out the night, it's dark for a long time, it's cold for a long time, you can't get comfortable. Like, we know that from sleeping on the ground. It's horrible.
Yeah, right.
So I guess it just comes down to being a little bit more prepared. I always carry a emergency bivvy. It's very, very small, very, very lightweight. and I could wrap myself up in that. I always have a rain jacket, always have a small first aid kit, just basic stuff, even if I'm just going to take some photos somewhere that I've been 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I won't dwell on that. It's a good article. Check it out. There's a lot of safety stuff coming up here today. Just a coincidence. There was an article I saw. Now, this doesn't affect us, Craig, although it has affected me in a way. They're talking about bear-proof canisters and bags, obviously for our friends in the US. And there's an article on Outside magazine online. And they're basically saying that to stop hanging your food, you know, that old thing where I'll show you a picture. You basically throw a line over a tree like this.
Yeah.
And you hang your food, and apparently the bear can't reach it from the tree, it can't hang down off the branch, and it can't reach it off the ground.
Okay, yep.
So basically, after all of the incidents, all the statistics, they're pretty much saying hanging bags is an ineffective way to keep bears from ripping your food to pieces. And they gave some pretty convincing information there from someone who seems to be pretty well versed. I'll just quickly go through some of the reasons not to hang a bear bag. And even the writer says, I no longer hang bear bags and never recommend it. The technique is plagued with problems. 1, you probably suck at it. 2, it's often impossible. I read that one, I thought, you know what? That's kind of true in some of the places we've camped before.
Yeah.
Where there's no high trees or anything like that.
Yeah, we always try and do it with our trash, our rubbish bag, so we can
most definitely
keep it away from the critters, eh? Because
we, remember that time we were on that canoe trip and that bush rat bit through
your tent.
The tent, got in and tried to. Well, it was stealing the
cookies, wasn't it?
The tiny teddy cookies that I'd stolen from my son's kind of lunchbox food, and took on this trip, and so that little bugger was getting in. Yeah. I thought he was on the outside of the tent, and I kept hitting the tent because it was irritating me. And then one time I actually turned the head torch on, and it was right in front of my face eating the biscuits.
That's right.
And then I sat up and went, oh, geez, he's bitten a hole through the tent.
Yep.
So, yeah, since that trip, well, every time I've gone canoeing there, I've always taken barrels after that.
Yeah, right.
And then I do hang a lot of things up in trees, just in a dry bag sort of thing.
Mm.
But we don't have anything as deadly as this to worry about. 3, it's time consuming. So that's a pretty good point. You get into camp late and you start mucking around with stuff like that. It's not going to be fun. It says here it can cause injury or death. I think that's a bit of a stretch. But hey, he's the expert, not me. 5, it's rarely effective against a determined bear. And there's a couple of videos that they've included of bears, the way they climb trees, especially black bears. Absolutely incredible. 6, more user-friendly options exist for less audacious bears. And he gives a whole bunch of options there of different canisters. Just be mindful, though, if you do look at his recommended canisters.
So is that what he's suggesting? Use a barrel or something instead?
Yeah, like these sorts of things. They call them hard-walled. And I think that hard-sided canisters, I think that's a term to demonstrate that it the pressure, it can't be crushed and the lid pop off.
Okay.
Yeah. But just in some of the reviews, so I went and looked at some of the ones he recommended, and there's a few people saying that they have had them broken into, whatever. So just be careful about what brand. I'm certainly not an expert at any of this, as you would know. And I'm not recommending any of these brands. I'm just saying maybe some of our US friends might want to rethink their hanging their food. Anyway, I thought it was interesting because they gave a safety video for local Australian people. I thought, well, it's only fair that I talk about that.
Balance it up, dude.
Balance it up. And of course, that's not the only place there's bears in the world as well. We've got listeners from other places that have bears.
And so I guess that's the big threat, is that the bear's going to come for the food, and so leaving it outside the tent's the safest option rather than have
most
the bear.
definitely. There, that's number one. That's a no-brainer. Is don't have the steak strapped to your body, some kind of vest, a steak vest.
And I guess it works in many ways to keep the bear busy with the food out hanging from the tree anyway, rather than, and then you may be able to escape while it's playing around with that.
The idea is even if you have it up in a tree, you've got it absolute minimum of sort of 50 meters, I think was what I read somewhere, away from your camp, which is a fairly long distance if you consider, thick vegetation or something like that.
Several times a week, I just look at myself in the mirror and say, thank God we don't have freaking bears in Australia.
Yeah, we've got other nasty stuff. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Things like crocodiles, but
imagine having bears to contend with when you're in the wild here.
No, I was just thinking about, after reading that article, I was thinking about it, and actually there's a funny shout out coming up where she actually refers to bears.
Yeah.
Because there's another way of keeping bears away, apparently, and you'll find out about that in the very near future. How's that?
Yeah, good, just in case I ever need it.
Yeah. I'm going to finish on a real happy one. This one did make me very happy. Finish on a high with the news, remember?
Oh, yep.
There's been a reintroduction of bilbies. Bilbies are a cool little marsupial about the size of a cat, I guess. It's believed that they've inhabited Australia for up to 15 million years. They coexisted with Indigenous Australians, no problems at all. But just in the 200 odd years that Europeans have arrived, they've been, they're getting pushed to extinction. At the moment, their numbers are around 9,000 and on the decrease, which is unfortunate. But this was a really cool article where they've gone ahead and they've created these areas, obviously with predator-proof fences. For people who don't understand, the only trouble that we have with our native animals here is feral cats. So domestic cats get out into the wild, they breed, and they're extremely effective killers. And also foxes, those, the beautiful kind of red ones that you see in fairy tales and stuff, they were released here for purposes of a fun day out hunting, and they've taken over. Have done really, really well in the landscape. They're very small and they can get into our native animals' holes, and they can also kill some native animals that, like the cats, one of the only things that can kill an echidna, which is kind of like a porcupine in the States. It has spikes everywhere. They roll up in a ball and they just stay on the ground. One of the only things that can kill them is a cat, because it'll roll them onto their back and then attack their soft little underbelly, which is very sad. So anyway, I'm supposed to be getting to the good part of this, is they've got these areas. One area is the Mallee Cliffs National Park and the Piliga State Conservation Area. In 2018, they reintroduced them into that area. They'd never been in that area for over 100 years. So consider that for a second. They used to be all across Australia. Now they're only found in about 15% of Australia. In this area, they were not found for 100 years. They've reintroduced them. These are fenced areas covering a large, large space. And the cool thing is, so after they released them in 2018, but what they've discovered now is there's new generations. So there's babies from the ones that they released 2 years ago, and which is a fantastic sign that they've taken back. Well, first of all, that they're not getting predators attacking. Right. Secondly, that they've found themselves very comfortable back in that environment, comfortable enough to, increase their numbers. I think that's fantastic news.
That's a good news story.
It is.
Is that seriously the end of your news, though?
Well, it's not the end of that story. I was just going to
continue the story.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the show notes there's a cool little video of everything, but it's got the bilby on it. If you want to know how cute a bilby is, just check it out. And also there's an organisation that I follow on Facebook and on Instagram. They're called Bush Heritage Australia. And I was just thinking, as I was putting the notes together, I thought if someone really wanted to help, these guys do a whole bunch of work on Australian native animals. So they help with things like this. They help with protecting animals from predators, regenerating land and stuff like that. And so if you go to bushheritage.org.au, there is actually ways there that you can help. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, I am not paid to say that. I just genuinely thought if somebody wanted to help, they might want to know how. But yeah, that's the end of my news, mate. What are you hinting at?
Mate, speaking of predators.
Oh, Arnie's coming out to hike with us.
You must not have been watching the news earlier this week.
I don't watch the news.
I can tell.
I just don't.
I can tell.
What's happened?
Big cats.
Oh, here we go again.
Black Panther. Have you seen the footage?
No, I have not.
It is perfect. So you're going to be having to add this to your show notes. It is pristine footage of a Black Panther out back of Sydney.
Okay, because this has been a thing that it's been a
look at that
argument for. Can you turn the screen?
Oh, sorry. So but there's video. There is actual video of this thing walking across a meadow or a paddock, and I watched it. Looks legit. So yeah, and then a tracker's been out to make sure and confirm, and they've put it all over the news, mate. They found one. I'm
still not going to believe it until
it's footprints.
Okay, footprints is good. It's a big footprint, so it's not, because I remember they used to show old footage and it was just a big feral cat that was black, and when it's in the distance you can't really tell how big it is.
Yeah, it's long been Australian.
Mr. McDonald said he'd been meditating.
He'd been meditating.
Hit the creature, and it was quick to start filming.
Yeah, no. I immediately thought of you, and then I went, "Oh, is this in Australia?" And then I've looked into it, mate. This is amazing outcome, because just looking at similar stories in Australia recently, like there are people dedicating their lives to what they are certain they've seen in the wild. They comment that these black cats jumped out of a tree in front of them and taken off, and they swear it was like they call them a puma or a panther, and they reckon they must have escaped
for our US friends.
They must have escaped from like a circus or something from way back. And
that's always been. I mean, I've heard that story for 20 years a panther escaped from a zoo or a circus, and then it bred, and now there's heaps of them out there, but no one's ever seen them.
Yeah. So like this other story here, sightings in Australia, and he says Mr. King is convinced that they are there, but he knows that the only big thing missing is in the years of big cat sightings is proof. And there's guys, making documentaries about it and everything up until now, and they've got a bit of footage, mate. Do you want to see it? Or we'll just put it in the show notes.
I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
I'm still skeptical, man. If
I click play on this, it may play something else.
It's going to play an ad for sure.
Yeah.
I'd have you. Yeah.
How do I go back to it? Here, watch this.
Yeah. I'd turn the volume off. Oh, you've got it.
Oh, the volume's off. It's about to play. Sorry for this is obviously not
great for radio.
Here it comes.
It's very, very big. You can tell by the way it walks that it's big. Yeah, you see, I wouldn't argue that
There you go.
that's a big black cat.
There you go.
The problem is,
You reckon it's just a massive feral?
no, I don't think that's a big feral. What they need to do, and I don't.
Here we go.
Good job. Yeah, doing a great job. He's all over it. He's
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Welcome to professional radio. I would suggest that. Here's the thing. Here's where I've got problems with all of these theories. Is that's very good footage. I'm not going to argue. As long as that checks out that footage was actually taken there. You said that there's footprints. I can see photos of them. That's not convincing me that there's a population of them, because for example, you've read the thylacine book just like I have, and
sure.
What did he say, that the minimum was something like 1,000? You'd need to have 1,000 in one, somewhere between 600 and 1,000 in one population, just so that for genealogy, just so that they didn't interbreed and kind of kill themselves out.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Is that a black panther? Maybe it is, and maybe they catch it and they find out it has come from somewhere or whatever. But is there another 700 of them out there that's keeping that population alive? I'm not really convinced. The reason I'm not convinced is because I know a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the bush. I know a lot of people who have trail cameras up 24/7, and it streams back to their phones, and they can check the photos and the videos, and these things aren't coming up on people's cameras. So that's the only kind of thing that for me is that a panther? Looks like a black panther to me.
Yep.
Does it mean that there's a sustainable colony there? No, it doesn't. So I'm real skeptical if they can capture it and sort of identify exactly what it is.
And find out how many bilbies are in their stomach.
Yeah, find out how that thing would just scoff them down. And the problem with that is, and this is the other thing, I mean, you say there's a joke, but these places that are doing conservation for things like the bilbies have hundreds of
feral cats.
No, hundreds of trail cams
that haven't picked up the panthers.
Set up all the time.
Yeah,
24/7 at various locations. So one of two things would happen: is they would scale a fence, no problems. They're massive, that thing. But it would start coming up on things. So is there one big cat that's roaming around there? It looks like there is. Did someone smuggle it in on a ship or something?
Might not be a population, but there might be a couple out there.
Maybe, but then it's then I still don't believe that the stories I heard 20 years ago is that cat, because they don't have that life expectancy. So there's a lot of holes in it. Is that a big black cat? Damn straight it is. Did he take that footage there? I don't know.
We know people like that have,
Yeah, we've got a mutual friend who's adamant that he saw one.
Yeah. I've got other friends.
But that was a long time ago.
Grant Danier installed cameras on his property after spotting black panthers.
Yeah. He's strange.
It's possible. No, look, a lot of people talk about it like it is. It's the real thing, and there's a bit of proof, of evidence.
I'm glad to see it's on that website. But I'm not going to say the name of the show that it refers to at the start there, the TV show. But anything that appears on that TV show, I pretty much don't believe.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Anyway,
this one here.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Still interesting though. I'll take that. I'll put it in the notes.
All right,
judge for yourself.
There you go, guys. There's something big out there in the bush in Australia, and we're just getting some evidence coming through.
It's not a yowie.
Awesome.
Okay. Tom's Magical Mystery Media Mashup. I got something for you, Craig.
Okay.
I know you absolutely love this sort of stuff. Now I'm going to mute my volume before I press play, and then I'm going to leave it like that. Perhaps I cannot get this to play. I'll get this one to play though. Or I won't. Just do whatever I want. How about I just copy and paste that? This is a trail called Watzman? Have a look at that again. Yeah, Watzman, Watzmann. It's a mountain in the Bavarian Alps, south of the village, if you want to be very specific, south of the village of Berchtesgaden. Right. That's probably horrendous pronunciation. It's the third highest mountain in Germany.
Yep.
And I stumbled across that Facebook video there, which is a couple of people running over the ridge. But then I did a bit more research and saw this one here and thought,
yeah, it takes your breath away looking at that stuff.
Look down here for a second. The width of his body is the width of this knife ridge, and it's almost 2,000 meters above that river there. And you'd almost fall every one of those 2,000 meters. I reckon there'd be nothing to stop you. So I've put another video on from this other guy.
They've obviously got parachutes in those bags, you reckon?
Mate, I don't know. I could not do that.
That's scary.
So
that's really bad.
It's got one of those cables that had a really interesting name. Remember when we interviewed Richard? He was talking about clipping into those.
Yep.
These guys aren't even clipping in. There's a name for those cables there, which are bolted to the rock. What you're meant to do is you have a harness on with 2 ropes and 2 carabiners, and you clip in and you just slide along as you're walking. And then when you get to one of these steel rods, you take one off, move it, take the other one off, move it over so you've always got one on.
That looks
there's a fancy name for it, but these guys aren't even clipping in. They're just holding on with one hand.
Wow.
And the other
footage
hand's on
looks
his cam.
incredible. Imagine that would pop up on a big screen, right? And you'd be immersed in it. If you like that sort of scary, I'm on the edge of the world sort of footage, this is it. Check it out. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
Once again, none of our listeners can see this right now, but I swear that's awesome. Take my word. That's cool, man.
They can always check it out.
Did you have another one?
I've only got one other one. Yeah, as I said before, the more frequently that we're catching up to do these podcasts, I just don't get as much time in between to read stuff, to watch stuff, to research stuff.
That's all right, mate.
But I did watch this film called The Long Haul, and it's not even a new film. I just stumbled across it. It's been around for a while. It's about the John Muir Trail. Why is that happening? Here's a few stats on the John Muir Trail. 47,000 feet of total elevation along the 211 miles length, which is a lot. It kicks off at Mount Whitney, which we've actually had a few guests. Actually, I'm pretty sure that Tom Fabric climbed Mount Whitney. Yeah, it's a 14,000. Yeah, here it is here, 14,500 feet high point.
Sorry, is
Mount
this in
Whitney.
Canada or something? Or
No, this is in the US.
Right.
It starts at Mount Whitney, and then after 211 miles of unbroken trail, you end up in Yosemite Valley.
Right.
Near Half Dome.
Oh, cool.
But it takes most people 21 to 30 days. That's the typical kind of time you'd spend, so 3 to 4 weeks.
Perfect.
The fastest times hover around 3.5 days.
Oh, right.
Yes. So that's what this film is about. These couple of guys that decide they want to try and break the record.
All right.
And they set out to basically trail run the 211 miles. Now, just for our
Full length, or is it a short film?
Oh, it's I think it's about 40 minutes. So yeah,
Okay.
short film.
Yep.
It's a good watch. And just for our metric friends, that's 340 kilometers that these people are covering in 3.5 days.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they're doing 100 clicks a day.
That's a long way.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. Anyway, I recommend checking that out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Shout outs. Remember before I was talking about the bears. I was talking about bear safety.
Yeah. Yep.
Listen to this. So Jennifer sent us a message on a DM in Facebook. She says she's a solo female hiker from Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
So props to you straight away for getting out there solo and not waiting for someone to take you out there. Much respect.
Yep.
She says she's been listening to our podcast for ages. Here's where it gets odd. She's on her second time through.
Whoa.
Yeah. I wrote back, as I always do, and say I'm not sure that's a safe thing to do for anybody. I'm not sure it's safe to listen to them all once. She's on a second run through.
Wow.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
So she'll get all the in-jokes every time. That's great.
Wow.
What she does say is she's learned something from something new from every episode, rather, which I think is the most fantastic part about her message was, I was just thinking that there's one person out there, and I know there's more because you guys have reached out to us, that are learning something. And that doesn't mean that it's you or I telling them something interesting. It's probably just something
Even
in a news article that I've read off a screen, and they've gone, oh, thanks. So now I know about bear canisters, Tom, because you certainly don't.
Or even if it's just your quiz, mate,
Even if it's the quiz, well, now it could be the quiz.
Quiz.
She'll definitely learn something. Jennifer, you're going to learn something about last episode.
Now it's going to be...
what was last episode? That was the what's the two mammals that lay eggs? So yeah, you
platypus and echidna. No, what am I saying? Mammals.
Yeah.
Echidna.
Platypus and echidna.
All right.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, it gets real funny when she says.
I'm just worried there's going to be listeners out there telling everyone that there's black panthers in Australia now because of.
Well, yeah, when it was. Hence the reason you said it and not me.
Yeah, right. We've got to be careful what we say then if people are actually listening, mate. That's what I'm saying. But no, it's good that they're learning stuff.
It's too late for that.
Stuff.
26, 27 episodes in.
Yeah.
I don't think, it's too late for everybody.
Too late.
It's out there.
All right.
Jennifer listens on Spotify while at camp for the night.
Oh, really?
And she says, I'm sure it helps keep the bears away. Keep it up. I appreciate you and what you do.
That's good advice.
I appreciate that you've taken the time out of your day to write to us and let us know. I sound like a broken record, but honestly, we don't know what we're doing unless you guys write in and tell us we're on the right track, or you want this or you don't want that. But yeah, it helps keep the bears away. There you go. So maybe that's a new tagline for the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure podcast. We help keep the bears away. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, imagine, first of all, the intro song comes on, freaks them out, off they go. Second of all, I don't know so much as keeps them away, perhaps, because we do get accused of being very slow. Perhaps it just kind of, our voices just lull them into a calm place.
It pacifies them.
They meander off
they're not aggressive.
Find blueberries instead of...
It's not an aggressive scene.
Instead of human burritos.
Peaceful.
Good, yeah, that's good. Loved
Great.
it. Thanks, Jennifer. I got an interesting one for you too. Andy's a long-time listener. He actually, way back, he actually won one of the little care packs that we sent out with the Caribbean hat and a few bits and pieces.
All right, good.
And he sent me an email recently. This is quite funny. It was this knockoff, so an imitation rip-off of the SOL bivvy. That's what I was actually talking about earlier when I was talking about what I carry. So I remember we did that review on the Sol bivvy.
Yeah, I know the Sol bivvy for sure.
Well, some rip-off Chinese thing is they've gone and made this promo video and they've used footage of me wrapped up in it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, only about 3 seconds, but they've obviously ripped off another 10 people's videos.
Okay.
And what Andy's done is he sent the clip and the Facebook thing to me and said, I'm pretty sure this is you.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't look like you support it. And I said, well, not only have they used it without my permission, it's not even the bag that I'm in is not even what they're promoting. So it's complete hoax. So don't get sucked into stuff like that, guys. But what I wanted to say, so anyway, we went through I contacted the Sol team, and both of us have, we've dealt with that. So it's cool. But the main reason I bring it up is just really appreciate how there's listeners out there, all, looking out for us, to take the time to recognize that and then contact me.
I hope there's still a copy of this ad floating around. I can't wait
I'm
to see
pretty sure. Well, I took a screenshot, but I should save the video.
That's
it's fast
amazing.
forwarded, so it makes me look extra weird.
Awesome.
But yeah, I guess the point is I just really appreciate you guys looking out for us.
Yeah, that's good.
It takes a lot of time to put content together, and when you just see someone trying to make $1 off it, not only are they trying to make $1 off it, absolutely fantastic product that I'm not paid to say that about. I just absolutely love it. They're trying to generate an income off hard work that we've done as well. Not cool. I guess before I go any further, you want to know the answer to the quiz.
Oh, yes. Is it time?
Absolutely, it's time. It is time. Unless you've got anything else to add, mate, before I go ahead.
No, let's do it.
So I'll ask the question once more. I won't give you all the options because that'll go on forever. Alexander Pearce was an Irish convict sent to Australia in 1819 for the theft of 6 pairs of shoes. We know that to be a fact. He actually had 6 legs. Well, he was not most famous for the 6 legs. Did you pick? Don't say the answer, but did you remember the answer?
No.
You honestly didn't?
No.
Oh, that's hilarious, because I know for a fact you were told this story on the trail.
What?
In Tassie, I'm sure we talked about it, and I'm sure Andy Slozzy in that interview spoke about it as well. Anyway, the answer is...
Okay, so he...
E.
Yeah.
He escaped from... Sorry, C. What am I talking about? Excuse me. The correct answer is C. He escaped from a penal colony on 2 occasions and ate his fellow escapees while they made their way back to civilization, later gaining him the nickname of the Pie Man.
Oh, man.
The funniest part about it's not a funny story. But the funniest part about it is the first time he escaped, he took around 5 or 6 other guys with him, and they all... It's a harrowing story, let me tell you. They basically were drawing straws as to who was going to go next, and if anyone fell asleep, they'd just grab the axe and take to him with the axe, and so people just kept getting knocked off. But the first time he made it back to civilization, and then he was caught again, and they said, "What happened to the other guys you were with?" And he said, I killed them all and ate them. And they said, "You liar, you're trying to protect them. They're still out there somewhere." And so they punished him for lying.
Yeah.
The second time, he does it all over again, somehow convinces other guys to go with him. Somehow again survives. Again, eats all of his travellers.
Yeah.
Again, gets caught. They say, "Where's the rest of the guys?" I killed him and ate him. You're lying again. check his belongings. They open up this kind of sack that he was carrying, and there was a human foot in there.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
That's gruesome, man. I'm really...
Alexander Pierce, the pieman.
Oh, I'm glad you added that quiz to the schedule.
Yeah, we're all learning. We're all learning.
Yeah, it's true.
We're going to skip to something a bit more serious now, mate, and that is the fantastic conversation that we had with John Garcia from Soldiers for Wildlife.
Yeah, for sure.
It was such an enjoyable conversation. We just explored every avenue of what he's doing over there in Africa, he is effectively protecting animals over there with these wildlife soldiers that he's training up. There's so much to it. It's so complex. I'm not even going to try and really touch on it. There's so many levels to what he's doing over there, and he's just a young guy who's just, as you'll find out, just has this amazing drive, and that's what he's chosen to dedicate himself to. And not only is he a top bloke, and not only does he have his head screwed on and is he doing amazing things, but I just felt that he's the sort of person that you want to support. And if we can get this podcast out, and if you guys can share it, there's a really legitimate cause in there that needs us all to kind of have a listen and take a bit of his advice. So there's, in the podcast we talk about how you can help him, or rather how you can help his soldiers to, deal better with things like poaching and all sorts of stuff over there. That is the main cause of all the problems. But we talk about the dogs. That's what I was alluding to earlier. They've got a canine team now, and you can do things like sponsor a dog, and obviously all that money's going back to the right place. We had such a good time talking to John that after we switched off the mics, I think we spoke for another hour.
Yeah.
And found out about his love for Steve Irwin. Yeah. Which it surprised me at the time, and then very quickly I realised, well, of course you love Steve Irwin. He was basically a very similar kind of mindset, just 100% dedicated to protecting animals.
Conservation.
And you pick that up in John very quickly. I encourage you all to listen to this one right to the end.
Yeah, it's a great story. I reckon all our listeners are going to love this one. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in that it's not specifically hiking related, but there's definitely, we get into some really good hiking conversations, wildlife conversations, outdoor conversations. Hilarious snake story that he told us. Excellent snake story, one of the best. And all sorts of stuff in between. He's a really likable guy. Have a listen to this and support him any way you can. Anything else to add, Craig?
No, that's it. Let's do it.
Fantastic. Enjoy the podcast, guys, and thanks for your support. See you later. John, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. It's 7 a.m. there?
Yep. Early hours.
You're just telling us you got an iced coffee there.
Yeah, yep. It's my new thing. I went from hot to ice.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was never an iced coffee guy. I don't know. Recently I got into it. It's so miserable and hot over here right now.
Kind of bringing a bit of masculinity to the iced coffee. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, that's good. It's pretty popular here, so I can't say I'm one of the few men that do this.
Oh, okay.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, but for sure, it took me a while to get into it.
No, good stuff, mate. Hey, I've been doing a fair bit of research into, to be honest, into everything that you've been involved in. But in regards to the Soldiers for Wildlife, I thought that perhaps we could start by you, I guess, spelling out what the mission is, what the kind of core goal is of this project that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. It's an anti-poaching initiative based in Southern Africa, and we've got 4 core elements. We
we fund the preserves of we fund reserves that are on private land, chiefs land, nothing, no national parks or anything like that. So we fund private reserves. We uplift local communities by investing in those communities, and also we only employ the indigenous. So when we're creating anti-poaching teams, we only take them from the local communities that are within or surrounding these wildlife regions. Education, and what's the uplifting local, and then that should be it. That should be it. So we're uplifting local communities, education, anti-poaching, and funding these private reserves. So there's a lot that goes into it, but you find that if you miss out on something like, creating the elite anti-poaching units or uplifting the communities, if you're missing one of those, it's not going to be entirely successful.
Yeah, it's something that really stood out. I have to be honest. It was something. So originally, just to be clear for yourself and the listener, I was actually sent a kind of a media release on what you guys were up to at the moment, and I get a fair bit of stuff sent to me. But I was having a bit of a read through, and I thought, so far without sounding offensive, it's reading like something I may have seen before. There's similar things happening, but then when I actually went in and read it properly, these are the things that stuck out to me. Was the education, was the kind of giving back, and I thought that's when I really started to get interested, or rather more interested, and think, hey, this is something a bit different, and I was really keen to learn more about it at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much tourism goes in Africa. For some countries, it's their second and third, biggest source of revenue. So, but a lot of these tourist companies, they don't give back nearly enough to the communities, and that's such a big gap, because you'll go from outside your safari camp to local communities, and they'll be, still walking 7-8 miles every single day to get water. Yeah. These people that are out there should be, they should be. This is their heritage. It's their traditional land, and they're very, most of the time, these people are very easy to deal with, and they're very, very friendly. Life is simple. So giving back to them and educating them is super important. And then once you gain the respect of the communities, it also becomes your first radar. They learn to love you, learn to care about you. They know that you're looking after them, so they're going to tell you when, if we've got like an out-of-town poacher come in that's going to go after some elephants, they'll tell you he's there. And it's just a great mutual back and forth. And we really, the more time I spent in Africa initially when I was putting this together, I knew I was going there for conservation, but I really didn't know that it was going to turn into a conservation and community initiative overall. So I started to really care about the people, and I saw that, the only way to successfully combat this is if you're taking care of both. You can't move into somebody's backyard and say, listen, I'm going to look after this, but you guys got to figure your stuff out on your own.
Yeah. Oh, I love that aspect of it, because I think it's kind of like that old saying, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
100%. 100%.
That's
exactly.
What I love about it is you're saying, well, okay, guys, let's work together. But if you want to move on to another country and start doing something similar, or if you're say in current situation you're probably unable to get there, everything doesn't just stop to a grinding halt, because you're kind of educating them to proceed without you, and I think that seems to be quite unique in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they love it, and I think what helps too is I'm not old. I'm relatively young. I'm 29.
Oh wow!
So when I left the military and I got out there, I want to do all these things. I don't want to sit back and after I've learned and just kind of tell people what to do. I'm out there doing patrols every day. I'm running the show, but I'm doing workouts with these guys every day. And as much as I am their boss and they are very disciplined, I'm out there doing it with them, and I think they really care about that. And there's to some extent, there's camaraderie between us, and that's super important. Well, and it's made the job very easy.
I think that's that's a kind of a military thing as well. Nobody's going to follow a leader who stands behind everybody and points and says, "Off you go in that direction. I'll be at the back here." I think when you lead from the front is when you truly get that trust as well.
Yeah, that's how we're trying to start a movement here amongst these younger generations to start taking care of our planet. And I've always kind of been that person to just put your head down do the job, when it's in front of you, and do it to the best of your ability. So I think that's something that, especially now in today's crazy world, especially in the States, it's something that we really need. And, this, I don't know if you've like read or any of the crap that's going on around here with this whole racial division in the media.
Yes. Yep.
It's crushing everybody, so this is just, especially right now, it's just one of these stories that I'm trying to push out there that the people can see. We don't care about race, color, creed, or religion. We're all here coming together from, all around the world, trying to help the world, and do the right thing.
Yeah, that's perfect. No, I love the sentiment in that, and I can tell from everything I've watched or read of yours that it comes from a really genuine place. I have to say though, I'm a little bit jealous because when I was about 29, I was nowhere near this committed to anything.
Yeah, good on you, mate. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's I was genuine when I said, "Oh wow," because I don't know, in my head I kind of had a few more years on you just because of the what you're achieving and how dedicated you are. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, I appreciate that, but I never saw this coming at all. I was never a conservationist at all. I wanted to go into the military and do what I needed to do and then get out. And I loved playing sports, and I was actually thinking about going to law school. But it was just a trip to Africa like 10 years ago with my family that had really changed the course of everything. Like on a dime. It was just a flip of a switch.
Is that right?
And I think that's very common. It's almost like walking past an orphanage or getting introduced to, child sex trafficking or something like, something to that extent. And it just kind of changes your life. Something that extreme. Yep. Exactly. And then right there, you know that it's just in the back of your mind all the time. And that's kind of what happened. Was I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah. And was this
it was always
prior to joining the military?
Yeah, the military was a stepping stone.
Oh wow.
To get to that. So it was 10 years. I was 20 when we went to Africa, I believe.
Yeah.
Around 20. And so I was at the end of university. I think I had a year left of college.
Yep.
And I was in no position. I was a kid that just loved going out and drinking, and I was just waiting to get into the military. After that, I knew that was probably going to be my road. So when I got out of college, I was a kid with no money, still lived with my parents. And from there I knew I needed a skill set to be able to do this, or at least get halfway in the door, to bring over there and be able to help and whatnot.
So John, can you just fill me in and our listeners about what you see the problem is with the poaching that's going on, and how you what you're trying to face up to over there?
Yeah, the problem. I mean, it really. I mean, we all know that the problem is poaching, and we know where it comes from. The majority of it is coming from China and Vietnam, Thailand, is where the ivory and the keratin and lion bones and all these kinds of things are going, which feeds a 20 billion black market trade. But we are facing that, but we're also facing a bushmeat poaching as well.
Yep.
And that's wiping out populations of prey species, which ultimately leaves predators with nothing to eat. So I'd say 80% of the time we're facing bushmeat poachers, and then the other 15 to 20% is when you're dealing with elephant poachers and rhino poachers, and those are really the more involved syndicates that most of the time a lot of these guys are lifetime criminals and have a lot of other things on their record.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're up against, and we're in a really bad part of Zambia.
Right.
It's the most poached region in the country. So there's a lot going on, and it's like we're going back to earlier where I was saying how I was young, and there's other people that kind of move in, just kind of point fingers and say, do this, do that. We've got a neighbor that does that, and they haven't caught any poachers in over 3 or 4 years, and we hear gunshots from their property every single night.
Wow.
And we've shut ours down, but the poachers know, just we'll go around us and get to the other reserve, and we'll be fine.
Wow,
So, and that's super frustrating because we don't get along. There's no, they're just, these people, our neighbors they're relentless. They're all there for themselves. They're there for money. They could care less about the wildlife on the ground. So it's tough, man. It's conservation is seriously frustrating.
Jeez. Yeah, I can't imagine how frustrating it's. And it's something I wanted to touch on. Definitely was. I get the impression, and I think I know more than the average person, nowhere near what you've experienced, but I get the impression we're fed a very, very false narrative in the media about what is bringing animals to extinction and the rate. And I think that's is that something you wanted to unpack a little? Because I'd like to know what you see over there and how different you think that is from what the media perceives, or rather what we're fed around the world.
I mean, it's very serious, and I think at this point I'm pretty well versed, and I've done my homework. Not only, what I see in Africa, but I also read a lot. I watch a lot. My favorite documentary, in fact, is, I don't know if have you guys seen Racing Extinction?
Ooh, I don't think I've seen that.
No.
I think I've seen the name.
You gotta watch that. It's called Racing Extinction.
Consider it done, mate.
It's phenomenal. You guys will love it, and that really dives into the extinction crisis on a number of different levels. It goes from oil drilling to our diet, and it's to the oceans. It really expands its view. It brings you a ton of knowledge on what's going on, and they show it to you. It's not like it's not made. This isn't a media stunt. So I would definitely watch that. But from what I see in Africa, it's I mean, we all picture Africa to be this big place with plains that just go to the end of your sight. You can't see any longer, and you're just looking out into this vast wilderness, and it's not true. And if it is, a lot of times there's not even wildlife in it. It's been poached. And there's a lot of places that just look like a graveyard. It's sad, and that's what started making me question this a while ago when I first got to Africa. Like, what's going on here? And then I started asking questions, and I started educating myself, and that's when I really came to terms with the reality of what was happening, and that's when everything changed. So it's just super sad, because you see the greed when you see an animal with its face cut off, whether it's an elephant or a rhino. Your life turns. That's
the first time I saw that was in footage this week. It was a small package that was put together, and with you guys were discussing some of the things you face, and there was footage of that. And I have to say, for anybody listening, I do want to explain it because of, I think, the impact. But if you're just be careful if you're sipping your coffee, eating your breakfast or whatever. But no, I think you know what I'm saying. Like it was gruesome, and do we shy away from that? In order to not offend somebody who's doing a workout right now, listening to the podcast. Well, I don't think that's exactly what we're here for. So it's quite literally, and I didn't even know this myself. My assumption was that if you were to get a rhino, this is my assumption, and I know it's wrong now, but I thought, okay, first of all, they'd probably shoot the animal, and then they'd saw off the horns, and then they'd move on. It's absolutely nothing like that. The situation is they're cutting the spine of the rhino with an axe so that it cannot get up. And then while it's still alive, they're cutting the front part of its face off. And the footage that I saw, so it could still see, but its tongue was just it was horrific. And I think that's why I wanted to say that, because if you don't understand that, then I don't think you're going to understand anything in the rest of the podcast about what you're kind of up against.
Yeah, sure. It's so that does happen a lot, when the animals are still alive, and there's a couple reasons for that. Sometimes they use sedatives to knock the animal, to just drug the animal so they can pull it off without firing a gunshot. And the other one is if they've fired enough bullets and they don't want to risk being hurt, they won't fire another one. So if the animal's almost incapacitated, or at least to a point where it's laying on the floor, then they will cut through its spine so it can't.
So they won't waste a bullet to get caught when they because they don't care about the animal anyway.
Yeah, and the crust on the bottom of a rhino's horn, the beginning of the horn, like in its skin, is the most valuable part of the horn.
Oh, incredible!
So that's why they dig all the way through. That's why when you see these animals and their horns gone, you see like their whole face gone, because they're taking everything, and it's worth a lot of money.
It's gruesome, And that's another thing I think that we're misled, is that there's this. Now, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying that it doesn't add to it, but there's this kind of anti-hunter movement where they're trying to put all of this extinction blame on people that go over to these countries and hunt. And what a lot of people don't understand is that I would argue that 90%, perhaps more, of the hunting that goes on over there from white people traveling over is within these contained, like, fake environments anyway. So they're breeding the animals within these environments, and then somebody's going over there and hunting them. Whether you agree with that or don't agree with that is not really the point. I think the point is that the media is being fed that these people that go over there are responsible for the massive decline, and it's reading this stuff on your website was kind of enlightening.
That's not true. I'm definitely I believe in sustainable hunting. I don't agree with the notion of trophy hunting, but as you guys know, in South Africa especially, they breed animals like lions and tigers,
exactly,
and all these kinds of things, and they raise them to be domesticated, and then when they get big and beautiful, they shoot them, which is a terrible business,
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of these people too, a lot of these trophy hunters, it's very ego driven. So they'll come over and shoot an animal and say to all their money, and I don't know if they believe this or it's just something they say to kind of blur the lines of conservation and to get activists off their back. But they think, or they say, that all this money is going back into conservation, and that's just not true.
It's just going to the tour providers.
It's going to the outfitter, and I think there was a study done a while ago that said like 3% of the money that they spend for that animal actually goes and sees the communities.
Wow.
And they give them meat and whatnot, but that's still not justifiable.
No, it's not.
We find ways to protect our wildlife through education, and donations. We don't need to, we don't use blood money, and that's something we like to speak out about and push out, because we think that's total nonsense, because they're so ego driven. They'll literally say that they're the reason these animals are still there, because they can hold on to their lands, but they're also crushing gene pools. Oh,
absolutely. That's exactly right. They're just breeding within the same circles and just, ruining that, what it is to be a wild animal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. No, it's vastly different. Even what you've explained already is kind of vastly different from what I think everyone assumes that they know. So,
yeah, it's funny. I get that a lot. And I don't comment on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. I'm not a keyboard warrior, but it's just it's funny. Like, when I have dropped comments in the past, when hunters will come after me, or trophy hunters specifically, they'll say something, then I'll leave just a smart ass comment back, and they'll be like, who are you? And I'll just be like, oh, I've been doing this for years, and then they kind of just shut up. But it really is. I'd say most of it's ego, and it can be infuriating.
Yeah, no, it's people, as you say, it's keyboard warriors, and that's a lot of the problem with a lot of the topics we've discussed already tonight is people's opinions on stuff that they've never witnessed, and that's why I was so interested to talk to you, because you've had your feet on the ground over there. Something I did want to jump back a little bit too, because it is another thing that's kind of I wasn't able to dig up myself, but you're saying that joining the military was like part of this master plan. What sort of so you consciously did that, and what sort of skills were you hoping to ascertain when you were in the military?
Honestly, I wanted to go to war. That was my whole plan. I wanted to face those realities. I live in New York, and my dad went through 9/11. So we were pretty affected by that. So there was this whole, in the back of my head for years, I knew that it was going to come a point where I needed to serve my country and join the military. And I love that. Like, there was nothing wrong with that. It was a little frustrating because it was so much time between when I joined to when I get to Africa. And that was like my real tug, and so I knew that was always going to be in the back of my head. So when I got out of college, I went to the Marines, and they pushed me away because I had something on my record they didn't like. Yeah, like right away. I walked in the door and they looked at my paperwork and they were like, yeah, no, you gotta try somewhere else, man. So I went to the Navy and I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be in a submarine. I didn't want to be on a boat. And, I enjoy working really hard. That's kind of who I was, work for what you get and, all that. So I got picked up for the Navy SEAL program. So I was in that for about a year. So that was my whole plan. You get drafted to that. Like you try out for it and have to pass a bunch of tests.
Is
and
that
then
the BUDS program?
Yeah. And then you get picked up. You get selected to go.
So you've completed BUDS and done all of that, and
no, I got injured and set back a couple classes right before the end of selection. So this is where it gets interesting.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine.
I'm listening.
It happens to like 6 out of 7 dudes that go through it get injured or fail a test at some point. So if they like you, they hold on to you, just set you back a class, or a class is however many you need to make it up. So it's super common. There's like a whole like section for those people, like getting ready to class up again. And I had 2 torn labrums. I had my toes were in bad shape. I think I had 2 broken toes. But it was sad because I got rolled back and I had this feeling in the back of my head that if I got rolled back, I was not gonna accept that it keep going. Like I needed to get to Africa that was just my thing. Give it your best shot. If you get rolled back, get out and go to Africa. So that's kind of what happened. I got rolled back right before selection ended, and I was happy. I made it that far, and I was stoked. I was really pissed I got rolled back because I had gotten to that point in my head where I knew I was doing well. And I was like, I got this. You know what I mean? That's like a hill you've kind of got to climb over. Is getting that confidence and overcoming what you thought you never could. And then once you're there and can see the top, you're like, yeah, hell yeah, I got this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's at the point where I got rolled. So that was upsetting. So I didn't think I deserved that, but they've got the reasons for everything. Anyway, so my class wasn't to class up for a couple months, and I'm sitting there like, Jesus, Africa started to tug on me more and more as it had during the year, but at this point, obviously more because I was sitting around doing nothing, waiting to class up again. And it was, to me, it came down to a decision where, am I going to stick this out and do it 5 years, or am I going to get started in Africa now? Is this a message? What are you going to do? And it was probably the hardest decision of my life because I had worked really hard to get there. I loved where I was. But I knew that at the end of the day, we're not at war right now. And after these animals are dying every single day.
Yes.
Like what's more important here? And that was really tough. I mean, and I'm not someone who reaches out for help, but I consulted a few people about it. It was really tearing me up. And eventually I just pulled the trigger and I was like, all right, it's kind of, I walked in the office and said my goodbyes and was like, guys, thanks. I'm not going to take it. That's it for me. And I packed up and basically left. I was out of the Navy within a month. And within a month after that, I was already in Africa.
Wow.
Jeez.
That is incredible, mate. Yeah, I don't know where to start on that. That's really cool. Because you only pick up bits of these in media releases and stuff like that, and so I really wanted to dig a bit deeper. But it sounds like that calling, it doesn't sound like it could have been any stronger. Like I don't know if I've ever had such a moving time in my life where I was that convinced about exactly where I needed to go and what I needed to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a crucial time for you, man. How long ago was that, and what's happened since then, and how long has it taken you to get to this point?
That was about, I think, because my guys are coming up. So I still have a lot of my good friends are in the SEAL teams now, and they're waiting to get out to help me out. Because they're not doing much, they're sitting, the Navy SEALs, they're all trained for war. So, and they're great guys.
Good friends to have. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're stoked to get out. So they're hoping something pops off within the next year or two. Otherwise, a bunch of them are going to go. So that was about 4 years ago. So since then it was really me, the advantages we have, obviously, guys, in the first world is we've got social media, we've got influence, things that, these teams and stuff like that in the middle of Africa don't have. So right away, I knew that was to our advantage.
Yes.
Was that we could put this in the spotlight somehow if we get through the right connections and really highlight what these people are doing and then help them out across Africa. But I wasn't going to start fundraising and all this because I didn't know. I did all my homework, from being home and my research, but for a long period of time, that was like coming up on like 6-7 years since I was really affected by this. But I knew I had to get on the ground and go out with these teams that have been doing this for decades and really understand from the ground level, what's going on. So I went out alone for a bunch of different periods, but it probably accumulated to be about a total year on the ground. With sometimes I was out in the bush with rangers that didn't speak a lick English for weeks in a row.
Wow.
And so that was really me, almost like, if you're putting it in like military terms, going through like a basic training all over again in the African bush, and that's what I knew I needed to do. I needed that firsthand experience, from the bottom, and then climb a little bit, to the top. So I did that for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Is that during that time? Is that where you met Les Brett?
Yes, I met Les at the end of that.
Right, which sounds like perfect timing.
Yeah, and he's someone I've held on to. He's so passionate. He fought in the wars, in the Bush Wars, in the 70s, and he really believes that this is going to be solved through education. So that's why he has a school called the Dung Beetle Bush School, which is what we run.
I love that name.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking about when I was reading it. I was thinking the dung beetle. Yeah, that's kind of like a metaphor for my whole life. It's pushing shit uphill.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I asked Les. I was like, Les, why did you name it the Dung Beetle Bush School? And he goes, well, they ran out of names. So that's the last one.
They ran out of all the cool ones, like the Kuyu and the...
Oh, yeah. He's hilarious. I mean, if you guys were ever to go out, I mean, you gotta meet him. He lights up a room. He's got more jokes than anyone I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So, yeah, that's how I came across him. And I went through his school, and I loved it, and I really felt his passion. And I knew that was going to be, part of what we do and focus on is education. That's really the most important thing. So that's why, growing this, I knew that I had to hold on to him, and we get along super well. So wherever we have a project like this massive one that I'm sure we'll get into that's happening in Zambia now, we want to replicate that school in South Africa on all these, reserves that come under our management.
Yep.
And have it solely on, focused on education.
Yeah. I do like the idea, and I did pick up on that somewhere through the literature that you're looking at creating something that can be rubber stamped to other areas. Again, it falls back into what I was saying earlier. What interests me about this is that you're creating something that continues you're creating a legacy. Like this, through education, this continues whether you're there or not. It can continue at 10 separate locations consecutively without you having to be at 10 locations. Exactly. I think that's the key, mate. That's perfect.
Yeah, so we'd like to, wherever we, have these reserves in schools, this is what I've got to get Les to start training guys from that local country, from those local regions, to do his job. So we can spread this out across, Southern Africa.
Yes.
Our traction's been so good. We've gotten requests now from Botswana and from the DRC, Virunga National Park. I'm not sure if you guys had seen what happened there. I think it was about 2 months ago.
No.
But 12 rangers were murdered in one sitting. It's a super violent place for anti-poaching and communities and conservationists. They're all really facing life or death in a lot of different scenarios. Yeah. So they need help bad, and especially now with the virus hit. So yeah, it's awesome to be called from them, and that they're looking for us for assistance, but it couldn't have come to us in a more difficult time to raise the funds to be able to do it, in the midst of all this.
And that's where that's when I received the email, was basically to kind of highlight that this pandemic is making people hold on to their cash a lot harder, not knowing it's affecting people's livelihood in every corner of the planet. And I think that's what it's the difficulty that's now affecting you guys is a flow-on effect from that. Like what not many companies and corporations are going to want to be shelling out sponsorship money. But the problem is they're not stopping poaching. They're not going on holidays. Yeah. They're not taking a break from poaching because of COVID. They're going hell for it's probably easier for them.
Yeah.
Something else that I think this is another one of those points that I honestly don't believe that people understand what poaching is. And what I mean by that is, I think they have this thing in their head where, at night time, a four-wheel drive comes in and a couple of dudes shoot an animal and they take what they want and they take off. But I don't think people understand the violence, mate. I don't think they understand the danger that you and your team are putting yourself in to try and help these animals. Some of the crazy stuff I was reading, maybe you want to talk to that a little bit, is the technology and the weaponry and everything that these syndicates are bringing in into these areas. So it's not just some guy running around with a 30-year-old rifle. It's night vision and all sorts of stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be, depending on the syndicate and what's being poached. That's, I mean, we know that the illegal wildlife trade is worth so much money, and we know that at the top of that is the elephants and the rhinos, because their tusks and their horns are so valuable. So these guys who are doing this, it's a misconception that a lot of this is because of poverty, and the bushmeat is totally.
Yes,
but,
I understand that.
These guys are risking. I mean, they've gone into zoos and killed animals, and killed people defending the animals. So they're there also to send a message. And when they come in they can afford things like night vision goggles. Like for us, a good pair of night vision goggles, at the cheapest, 10, 12 grand.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We can't even, it's hard for us to afford boots and pants for our guys, let alone stuff like that. And then they come in with other automatic weapons like AK-47s. And they're serious. Like they bring one guy. Now sometimes it's two guys that are only there for security reasons. So they'll come with AK-47s and a couple magazines and be ready to, have a shootout.
Wow.
So when you've got guys and these guys, it's such a lack of manpower, and you're covering such vast pieces of land, it's really tough, and it's just, I mean, people don't understand it. The violence either, because we try to put stuff out on social media, and you guys know that there are restrictions on Facebook and Instagram are ridiculous for what you can and can't sponsor and really put out there.
Yep.
So that's been super difficult, and it's also, the longer I do this, I mean, I've gotten up and given a lot of speeches at this point, and we live in the Western world. I mean, more specifically, me in New York. It really doesn't get much more first world than that.
Yeah, and exactly. It's such a juxtaposition to
it is.
To
it's cool because I can see both sides of the aisle. You know, and I think people like that because I've been here and I've been there, and I can just tell you the truth from my perspective. But it's, why would you care about animals being poached in Africa? And be like, well, why don't you just focus on America? Like, why should we be giving money to Africa? So that's like a big case. And then people, their lives are so convenient here. Even if you were to dive into like, listen, man, like if you eat one less burger a day, it's going to save hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. It's going to reduce the methane emissions, all this kind of stuff. But our lives are so convenient that no one wants to stop living the way they're living.
No,
no one wants to inconvenience themselves to better the planet.
They want other people to do it, but they don't want to do it.
I know.
Oh, I think that the US, again, I'm pretty well versed in your the fish and game efforts over there, and they're absolutely incredible. And I think that for anybody listening who takes your last question, like why aren't you putting all this time and effort into US animals? Well, that time and money has already been spent, and it continues to get spent. The amount of money that fish and game and resources that are pumped into the US system, and they're reaping such amazing benefits, with bison in Yellowstone, I think it is, and then reintroducing wolves and the scientific.
I love that story.
I love it too. So the scientific level at which they're assessing these landscapes, and then methodically and very carefully introducing these species, or reintroducing in this case, the way that they're scientifically monitoring levels, so that they're as you said before, what was the term you used for the kind of the gene pool? They take all that into consideration. So that answers your question. It's, well, that's why I'm not I would assume that's why you're not focused on it. The US is because that 1% of that doesn't exist in Africa. It's like it's literally a war zone, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it really depends where you are. Like where we are in Zambia, the people are great. It's really not that violent. You do come across your violent syndicates, but it's really not bad. Like you compare that to like, southern Zimbabwe or Mozambique or the DRC, and they're different stories. So that's where we hope to hop to next. But it really depends on your region. But yeah, like you said, I mean, a lot of that money here is going to where our mouths are in terms of conservation. So we are doing a good job. We could be doing better. This administration is awful. The Trump administration in terms of the environment.
Yes, we've
seen that.
Whilst we don't kind of cover the hunting side of things in this podcast, we most definitely in the news segment I'll always be bringing up places that he's kind of reopening for mining and ridiculous kind of things like that. So yeah, it's a fairly common occurrence for us to find something of his.
Yeah, I mean, totally against everything that we stand for. But it looks like he's going to be here another 4 years, so we'll be in a bit of trouble, but he's just an idiot.
Totally.
Yeah, just straightforward. He's just an idiot. But yeah, so that's really why I focused on Africa, because you've got even like look at the Amazon. Why the Amazon's being destroyed? Because they're sitting in the middle of these third world countries that don't have the funding to do these sorts of things and have so many levels of corruption that it's that the only hope they have is the international community.
Yes.
Coming together and throwing funding at good organizations.
Yeah.
That's what's going to do it.
Yeah, and the stupidity of this is when you break it down to a grassroots level is let's take the Great Barrier Reef. Are you familiar with that in Australia?
Yeah,
it's one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Okay, so it just happens to be off the coast of Australia. Okay, so then we have become custodians for that. It is our responsibility to maintain that reef for the entire globe, not for our own selfish purposes. That's off the coast of the country. Yeah, it falls in our water, but do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's
100%.
like
I've had this argument before.
Right, so like it's the U.S. Responsibility to maintain Yosemite National Park so that my sons can come over there with me and hike or see Half Dome, or it's a responsibility to maintain these natural things. And when the Great Barrier Reef starts to get affected by things within the water that are traveling around the globe through currents, then that's where you can't just sit there and say, well, I'm looking after my backyard, so it doesn't matter what they're doing in South America. Well, it does matter. That's where your oxygen's coming from.
Yeah. That was a big argument with the Amazon, because there was people from like Brazil, like, this is our responsibility. And you've got everyone else from around the world like, no, it's not. That's all of our responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It's almost like you need to take that off them and say, sorry, you're not being a very good custodian. We're taking over. Like, that's a rabbit hole, mate.
Oh yeah.
Hey, John, can I just get to something now about what you think the value is in these horns and the animals that you're trying to protect, and where's the market for it? And is there any way to sort of, I don't know, just reduce the value of these things to try and have some impact?
Reduce the value. That would all start at the source. So that would all start in China and Vietnam, and for these governments to step up and say, listen, this keratin is not curing cancer. It's not warming blood. It's not an aphrodisiac. It's not giving you boners. These are just things that's scientifically proven not to do.
Yep.
And meanwhile, the rhino horn is still worth, can be worth up to $250,000, for a single horn.
God.
So
are you serious?
But it's so culturally deep in these countries that, even when Hong Kong comes out and says, listen, we're going to make laws more strict surrounding the import of elephant tusk and rhino horn, that's great. But it's so culturally deep. You know how long that's going to take to root out? And do you honestly think that they actually mean it? Like, I mean, we all saw how much we trust China after this coronavirus came around. It's like...
I think it's... I think it also comes down to if you've got people in, let's say, for want of a better term, people in power in these countries who maybe they partake in the old rhino horn themselves, then they're not going to. Why are they going to want to stop that?
100%. That goes all the way to the top. I mean, it goes to the top in Africa too. I mean, and it's dangerous too right now because the Chinese are spreading out across all of Africa, and there's a number of countries severely in debt to China. I mean, I see it more and more everywhere I go, and it's sad, it is, because, and there's a lot of Chinese that are really environmentally conscious and conservationists, but it's a huge body. I mean, they've got, plus 1 billion people in their culture. So it's not an easy, fight at all.
That's right.
Something is so culturally deep.
And when you talk about the education that you're trying to bring, to Zambia, it's kind of sad because that kind of education on the reverse needs to be done over there with exactly what you just said, guys. This is not helping you. It's not actually doing anything. It's not. It's a placebo, and you need to. I mean, you want to keep doing what you're doing. It's not going to be there anyway. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like they want to see these animals go extinct because the more in danger they are, the higher they can jack the prices.
Jeez. Wow, they must be kind of stockpiling. I'm assuming some people would be.
Oh yeah, and then I mean, there's other arguments too because it's illegal, to trade in rhino horn, but there's people now that are fighting to legalize it, to start flooding the market. In the hopes that demand goes down. So there's been a lot of people stockpiling for that, and they're essentially like, well, guys, we tried option A, where we criminalized the trade of rhino horn. We gotta try plan B now because things aren't working.
Yeah,
and that's true and not true because there are, like, Kruger National Park, for instance, is now losing less rhino than they were a couple of years ago. So I think the globe has come together in putting a lot of pressure on governments. So to some extent, it's working. But it's not going to die. It's still going to be there. So it's a very controversial topic.
Does the value change much? Like, do you think the value of rhino horn and stuff has changed over the years in terms of how much it fetches and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, sure. I mean, rhino poaching, it does. It all depends on the demand. In 2009 or 2008, I think, was the year that rhino horn or rhino poaching soared 9,000%.
Wow.
But it's getting better. It really depends on the time, and the whole argument of flooding the market is, like I said, it's controversial. I don't know if it's something we should be willing to test, but honestly, I don't think I know enough about it and the market and the demand to comment on it professionally. So
that's fascinating.
I really stay away from it. I just try and do our job and protect the animals to the best I can, and spread the word that, listen, guys, if we don't come together to protect these animals, you're gonna be explaining to your kids, reading picture books about how and why we let them go and didn't do anything about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. There's when you just mentioned that stat, it was one of the stats I read when I was doing some research, and there's when you swirl that iced tea, that is a delightful sound.
I love that.
That is a delightful sound. Right, people will be their mouths will be watering when they hear that.
I reckon
it's coming across so good.
Yeah, that's beautiful sound.
It sounds like a bit more like a cocktail. It's good stuff. It's lightening the mood, mate, and we probably need a bit of that.
That's the delicious iced coffee over here.
Oh yeah, I've got hot coffee. What are you on a beer, Craig?
Yeah, drinking a beer.
Craig's drinking a beer.
Yeah, it's
what time is it over there?
Not 7 a.m. here.
What time?
It's 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
It's 10
It's
Friday
night.
night. Good hours.
Craig's
there you go. Yeah, you deserve a beer.
He's got a beer. Yeah, he's been working hard.
Good.
So yeah, the some of the other stats I wrote down just to kind of bring up were really just not just scary, mind blowing, horrifying. About 1,000 words I could put on them. Some of the stats, like since 1979, 95% of the rhino population has been killed due to the Asian black market. Just that one stat alone says so much. That is phenomenal. And I think that let's just say, for argument's sake, that stat was a bit off. Okay, let's say it was inflated. I don't care. Okay, I don't care if you got it wrong. I don't care if it's only 70%. Oh, they got that wrong. That's ridiculous. It's only 70% of rhinos killed. I don't care. It's bad, right?
Yeah.
96 elephants a day are killed. That's one every 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1994, which was ironically as one of your stats was the release of the Lion King movie.
Yeah, that's what I tried to relate that. It was actually for a fundraiser.
Right. Yeah, that's where I saw it on a separate video. That's right.
Our age. Yeah. So I wanted to relate it to them and say, listen, guys, because the new one had just come out. So from then to now, what's changed?
Yeah.
And that was like, I mean, everyone, I put it in front of a big screen at a fundraiser, and everyone went from talking and drinking their beer to like, oh, shit.
Yeah, Craig's stopped drinking his beer.
Yeah.
Has that effect, yeah.
No, but it's great. I love the way that you related that back. So since the release of that movie, the African lion population has decreased by 50%, so half gone. 1.1 million elephants at the time of 1994 are now reduced to 400,000, which is not really surprising if they're knocking off 96 a day.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff, the stat which was rhino horn is worth more than gold on the black market. Mm-hmm. And what was the saddest one for me was there are only 2 northern white rhinos left on the planet, and they're both female. That one really sunk home when I saw that.
Yeah, that's the point, right? To really drive it home. And I remember I was being interviewed about this within the last year, and I remember someone asked me that question about, where's the demand coming from? And I said, it's an Asian black market, and they were like, you shouldn't say Asian. I ended the interview. Because you can't solve a problem if you don't call out the source. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be PC about it. If we want to fix this, we've got to be real with each other about it.
That's right.
You can't. Where's dancing around gotten us? It's gotten us from 1.1 million elephants to 400,000. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
there's just no room for that now. We're at that moment.
We're in our little bubbles and not listening to stats. That's probably the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't see. I think humans have a very hard time seeing 10, 15 years from now. It's very easy for them to see in an hour or the next week or the next vacation, a couple months. But telling somebody that elephants could be gone in 15, 20 years, with most people, it doesn't register. Like they'll at first be really taken back, but then a couple minutes later, they just go about their day, and it's just like they know it. It sits there, but
they'll
it doesn't affect them.
Make an assumption that you're probably wrong or you're over-exaggerating, that sort of thing.
Yeah, which is part of the reason I think it helps, because it's not like I grew up in conservation. I've seen things from both sides of the aisle, and I lived in New York, I was in the military, and now I'm in Africa. So it's okay. Well, this guy's been around a little bit. It's not like he's trying to convince us his lifelong passion.
No,
for conservation, and he's only eating green beans.
No, there's an honesty about it, and your whole story is just honest. You're just straight up saying, this kind of obsession, or it was revealed to you, and you just thought, well, these guys aren't doing a great job. I think I can get over there and help out with that. Mm-hmm. It's you're doing a good job, mate.
Thanks. There's a lot of people doing really good things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. But you say people have a hard time seeing 15 years into the future, but even when you told me that you were planning to spend all this time preparing yourself in the military before you could even get over there, I thought, wow, that's a pretty big thing right there, to be thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, there's something about Africa too that it's weird. It just feels like home. Have you guys been over there?
No, not.
You haven't.
No.
Oh, that's got to be on the list. But I think you guys are stuck from traveling for a while.
Yeah, we'll be stuck for a while. I think we could go there. We just wouldn't be allowed back. But no, we're allowed. Yeah, you see, you might need a cameraman or something. So yeah, I might have to swindle a deal to get in there. I was just thinking before you said, I've got these SEAL mates are waiting to get over there. I'm thinking, how quickly can I learn how to use a gun?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, it'd be
we could
great to
definitely
get-
run through that.
You
in
can
South
hook me
Africa.
up.
Go over
Oh,
with
hey,
your top.
that brings me to I was going to say it's completely off topic. It's not really. I saw a video of you. The internet's a great place. I saw a video of you at some tactical training place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What video was it?
It was you going through what I would essentially say is a timed training sequence where you have to let off a
different positions?
specific amount of rounds, move to the next position, let off a specific amount of rounds, change your
okay.
magazine, move again, move forward to the. Yeah, do you recall that one?
There's a lot of them. So
Yeah,
I
then.
don't know which one you're talking
Well,
about.
anyway, either way, it was you. The way you moved was so methodical and calm. I thought, this guy's gonna be great out in the field.
Sounds scary.
Yeah, Craig, it was scary. Mate. Yeah, he looked like an assassin. So, but that's what they need, mate. They need that, right?
Yeah, that's at another Navy SEALs compound. He's in Florida. He runs a training compound out there called Full Spectrum Warrior, and he's a great dude. Actually grew up by where I am now, and because I didn't go all the way through the SEAL training. I got out. I wanted to keep going with training. Except this time I had to pay for it. So but Rich, the guy who runs the show, really cared about the story. He's going to be attached now to Soldiers for Wildlife and come out and help as well.
Fantastic.
So now, they're really buddies, and we've kind of linked up the teams, and so
Sweet.
we can continue this
All
relationship.
right, so I have to
out.
go there first. I've got to go there, then I've got to come over to Africa. That's how I have to do it.
Oh yeah, you'll have a great time at the training facility. It's really awesome.
No, I know. Like, there's a thing here, John, where our listeners are used to us talking to people who climb mountains and all that sort of stuff. Extended expeditions and all this sort of stuff. But the connection for me is a real simple one, and quite simply, it is we are talking about the environment.
Nature.
We're talking about sustainability of wildlife, and so it was a no-brainer for me to kind of crowbar this in and expose it to an audience that is probably just as passionate as we are, because they're the ones out there doing the right thing and spending the time in the wilderness. So it was just a perfect fit for me. Whilst it may seem, we're talking about shooting guns and stuff, it's quite different. But at the same time, I think people are going to get the idea that we're talking about it for a very, very, very good reason.
Yeah, sure. We want to actually too for the hikers and things like that. We'll have a program set up where you can hike across a certain piece of land on our reserve.
Now
I
you're
think
talking.
that'd be really fun.
How's
you can
that
walk,
for a segue?
You can walk with a few rangers. We'll put a few rangers at your sides, and it'll be like a couple days trip, and you'll just go from one side to the other. So you'll be protected, and you're on foot, and it's just like that'd be really neat. Like that's something almost like a walk with the rangers hike.
Yes,
so
great.
That's it.
That's something we want to definitely exercise, because I'm going to have to open up my own businesses out there, because I haven't for the last 3 years. I mean, I went to college, the military. I couldn't get into a career here because I've been, volunteering my time in Africa, making no money. And then when I come home, I work 2 to 3 jobs at a time. And delivering boxes, picking up garbage, caddying, security, like you name it, I've done it, so we want to do like a yoga thing too, where we do yoga retreats out there, and you could like overlook a body of water and the wildlife comes in and like things like that. So
that's awesome, mate. There's
gonna be a lot of different expeditions for the hikers.
And
we've actually been trying to get gear from the hiking community. We haven't been focused on it for like a year, but I think we're getting pretty close to it because our platform is growing.
Okay.
But that stuff is
on a serious note. I've got some good contacts in that area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, perhaps even some of the sponsors that we deal with. So yeah, most definitely, mate. Let's talk. Continue this conversation. Through email, and let's see.
Oh, that'd be great.
Let's see what we can do. Yeah, yeah. Because as far as I'm concerned, I even went on there. I even went on today to buy a trucker's hat, but you don't deliver to Australia, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, for you guys, I can make an exception.
Yeah,
I can
good.
shoot a care
Okay,
package
well,
out.
good on you, man. Well, I'll work that out as well. I'll deposit the cash and we'll sort that out because
Yeah, sure.
To be honest, between when this has only been a couple of days since it was confirmed that we were. The opportunity came up that we could have this conversation, and it was a bit of a last-minute thing. So I've spent 2 days just doing all this research, and it was literally this morning I thought, I'm sold on this. I'm buying a hat. I'm sold. And I went, oh, man, I wanted to get on tonight and say my hat's on the way. But, yeah, Craig laughed the other night when I was here. I said, oh, Craig, they've got truckers' hats, and he knows I've got quite the collection.
Yep.
And he just laughed. You're such a sucker for trucker caps.
I do love them, but they are gray and white. So I mean, when I'm out in the bush, I mean, it's a couple days and they're brown.
That's all right.
So I've got to
good.
get a bush hat.
Like a camo one, a camo version.
Yeah, camo, khaki color. And
Yeah,
like that, desert sand.
that's a great color. Yeah, no, there's a whole range there. No, that's a good idea. I'm liking it.
So so do you you've been back to States, to Africa like dozens of times, or just a few times?
At this point, yeah, it's getting up there. I'm gonna live out there eventually. I've had to come home and fundraise because I've been the tip of the spear, for the organization for since I started it. So which is something I'd like not to be in a couple of years. I'd like to kind of go dark and kind of erase my name from it, so I can start going after the bigger dogs and just not have my name out there. Like it is now. But yeah, for sure. I'd like to get out of the spotlight. That's for sure. But it takes a lot. I've had to come home. We actually had a beer come out, and we had a lot of interest from Australia. We had a beer, I don't know if you guys had saw it, called
the Game Ranger IPA. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And it was awesome.
Craig loves beer. He's
post to Australia?
mad for it.
So, but this brewery does. They've done business with Australia before, and it was it got international attention. We did a sample batch, and they're ranked in the world for their craft beer. I mean, they're phenomenal. And when it came out here, the sample batch, it sold out in 4 days. Cool. And people from all over the country were requesting it. The UK, Australia. So we're trying to find a way to make it a permanent line. And once AleSmith totally committed to it, they were essentially like, we've never received this much traction before.
Is that right?
And for them being, world famous, that was kind of like an eye opener. Like, wow, this could be a serious movement here, and this is perfect. It's a perfect setting. You're drinking beer, you're getting something in return, and you're giving back to a cause.
Yes.
You're enjoying yourself.
Yes.
It's like something to talk about on the can. It's got a write up. It really is perfect. So it's supposed to start this June, but with COVID, it pushed it back, and now it's at a point now where we still have bars that are interested, but how do we start approaching bars and companies to take this on when they're struggling to survive? It's just not the right thing to do. So we had to push it back, and now we're trying to find a way to have a link where you can just go online and order a case or a couple of cases, however much you need, and it can just be delivered.
So our bars are opening here in our state, mate. So so we're doing well. We're down to two live cases, I believe.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's good, eh?
Oh,
everyone,
much better than us, man.
Yeah, everyone really embraced, at least in our state, they really embraced the lockdown, and it was almost, I think, a testament to the Australian public, at least where we're from, and a couple of other states as well. Mm-hmm. I was proud to say I was part of that. One state's kind of blowing up a little bit now. Nothing crazy like you guys are getting, but in the scheme of things, it's so they're going back into lockdown. But no, yeah. So bars are opening, mate. So and Craig and I actually met the owners of a bar when we were hiking once. So yeah, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be
Do
good.
A bit of a reciprocal kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, maybe we can get it out there. I mean, let's hope. Fingers crossed we can get it out there before the end of the year, but we got to find a retailer to ship it. It's
absolutely
it's just tricky right now with all this.
It's
going
a big
on,
one. Oh, I understand that. I think
if that goes around the world, that'll change what we do, and that we'll give back to every organization we can, for help, because it's essentially for the game rangers. And that's why, I named it Soldiers for Wildlife, not because we were in the military. It was specifically for the rangers that were on the ground every day risking their lives, to do this job. It's highlighting their sacrifice and paying homage to the people that have died, doing it. So I'd like that message to get out there,
that's
with
cool.
this can.
I like that.
Cool.
They looked happy, mate, and I understand, they knew they were on camera, but all the videos I've seen of the guys training or working with you, they look like they, were just really into it, and that's really cool to see that. Yeah,
they love it. They love marching. It's like their favorite thing to do. Like I'll show up at like 07 in the morning, and they'll be drilling, and they love it. And they'll be singing. It's really,
I
really
saw that singing. That was absolutely. At first, I thought it was an audio track put on the video, and I thought, no, they were singing.
Oh, really?
Really, really cool. It was awesome. That one.
They're a joyous group.
Yeah,
they're happy. Life is simple, and they're there to do the job. I joke around with them a lot, so it can be funny. It really. I mean, I laugh all the time. Sometimes they don't know what I'm laughing at, but I'm laughing.
Yeah. Well, we get that all day.
Hey, John, a lot of these statistics and a lot of this, that I'm hearing tonight is fairly new to me. What makes a bigger difference for you and your organisation? Is it the perhaps money and funding, or is it like awareness? And do you think that we need to sort of wake up as a Western culture to what's going on? Is it a bit of both, or is there something you're sort of pushing for?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I think the Western world has to learn to care. And they've got to understand what's behind this. If these ecosystems die, what's going to happen? But like I said, it goes back to the 10, 15, 20 year thing ahead of you. And for us, it's definitely funding, especially now. Because of the wall we hit. Like, we've got this opportunity now to take over the management of over 150,000 acres of wilderness in Zambia. And we've been given that opportunity because of our close relationship with the community. And the chief makes the call. And he, we sat down with him, and he knows what we do for the indigenous out there. So we got the option to do it, or the opportunity to do it. And, but this happened 3-4 months ago. And
it was right.
We decided it was going to be only it's our values. A conservation community project. It's going to employ over 80 plus people. It's going to invest money back in projects in the community every single year that better their quality of life as a whole. But it happened 4 months ago. So we've been putting everything together, to get it going. But, to find a big donor right now that wants to be the name behind this has been really difficult, given the times. But it's a great opportunity, because it's not only going to be a legacy. It's going to be something we replicate across Southern Africa. It's a really great thing, and we're trying to do it as genuine as possible and keep the group tight. You know what I mean? Because we'd want this to be not a big corporate entity, but just a bunch of people that are just out doing this to do the right thing. A very trusted organization. So it's been really difficult finding the people to put the stuff out over. So we have gotten the backing now of some celebrities, former professional athletes, and things like that, but we're running out of time, because we can only mess around on this reserve in the dry season, which is like going to end in October, November.
Wow.
During the wet season, it's flooded, so we can't secure the area, we can't build roads. We have to cross a river to get there. It turns into basically the Okavango Delta during the wet season, just like marshland. So it's really hard to do this in the wet season, near impossible. So. And we've got these people, especially the chief out there, who's relying on us to put these funds together, that they don't understand what's going on globally, so they're just waiting for me to show up to sign a deal, give them some investment money, and pick a project that's going to go to and pay him off for signing it. But we're like sitting here empty-handed, like, guys, it's been really tough, and I can't show up there with that excuse. I'm going to try and push it back, but there's a lot of pressure, because there's a community relying on us, and we've got to get this work done, and animals they're dying every single day. Yeah. Like, I think the whole northeast corner there's no animals there anymore. Like, we've got to bring that back to life. So it's mounting pressure, and it's we understand the times, but it's frustrating. So people have been putting stuff out for us, which is great. We just made a GoFundMe, and we had a couple celebrities put it out, but we're we're trying to get that to really circulate around the world. I think it's called African Conservation versus COVID-19. And it's just money to get this started, to secure the area. That's it. It has nothing else. Nothing else on it, not the whole completion of the rest of the project, just to get over there and start.
Unfortunately, money talks, doesn't it?
It does, and that helps us reach, a bigger body. Is once we can get, us over there, back doing work again, and with the money to do it, our work is going to speak for itself, and we're going to get much, much more attention just from doing that and putting it on camera.
Yep.
Absolutely. No, that's cool.
Yeah, that's an incredible. That's an incredible opportunity. That to be able to manage that much land.
Yeah, mate. I'd love to hear you talk more about this new land that you've acquired, because that's pretty recent for you guys.
Yeah, that's the current campaign, isn't it?
That's the current campaign.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's in a really bad part of the country. It's next to. Have you guys heard of Kafue National Park? I think it's the 5th biggest in Africa.
I can't say
it's huge, but it's very, very poached.
Right.
And we're on the east side of the Kafue. And the south side is the Kafue River. It's a large river, and unfortunately, the only access to the reserve is through the river. So we've got to get a ferry.
I noticed that. It's going to cost us
$90,000, which is great because people will love riding it to get to our reserve. But in order to get the equipment over to build the lodge, temporary housing, the vehicles, and all that kind of stuff to start, we need that ferry. So that's it's close to $100,000. Before we do anything.
Shit.
So,
Yes.
but the project overall is only $2.5 million. And that's building the educational school, building a lodge, building a base for the Rangers, and basically the very minimal amount we need to secure the land. So it's not, and that much land, $2.5 million is not a lot of money.
No, it absolutely
to some
isn't.
people.
That's exactly right. We're talking about, to the three of us, that's a lot of money in our personal lives, but it's not when you see how much, somebody's dropping on a Super Bowl ad or something like that. It's absolutely right. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And there's such selfish ways to spend money. This is, and without, I don't think I'm over glorifying this at all. What I'm saying here is you're literally changing the world in that, as you said before, if we have to tell our children about these mystical creatures that used to have horns and tusks and trunks, that is a tragedy beyond anything I can possibly imagine. It's a disgrace, not to the African people, it's a disgrace to the entire globe.
It is.
Because, as I said before, they're the custodians on the ground there, but we're all responsible for. It's a tough one to kind of.
And so, John, have you already got the rangers there in that park that were there established already, or are you I'm not quite familiar with that. Are you bringing in more, like a bunch of people to patrol? And
So on the reserve we have now, I've got 13 guys out there every day monitoring what we have now. On the new reserve, there's no security there at all, which is why it's being so decimated. We haven't been able to make it over there, and right before we were going to, something came up in Zambia, and then I had to leave. So we haven't made it there yet, but we've had people on the ground to look at it, and apparently it's unbelievable. Always water on it, which means there's wildlife there year round.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is next year, if we can somehow find the money to start the project this year, secure it, figure out where we're going to put a base, a lodge, temporary housing. We actually just got puppies too. You guys probably saw that.
Yeah, that was actually my next topic.
Oh God, I'm so excited for that. But anyway, next year in the second quarter was going to be the time where we held a selection course for the indigenous people to be game rangers.
Awesome.
And we'd probably bring in about 100 to 150 and select between 50 and 70.
That's great.
And so that's where
great.
I bring in, some of my military guys, and then, guys from out there, just conservationists, bushmen,
Yep.
and then, from the military side from here, and hold a selection course. And then after they complete, a selection, which would probably be 3 to 5 days, they go through like a 2-day little warm up, and then a 3-day, I guess you can kind of call it a hell week.
Mini hell week.
Who's going to stick it out? Yeah, the infamous hell week. And then we go from there, and then the training regimen starts for a couple weeks, and then after that, Then they get their positions, their teams, and they're out into the bush.
See that what you've done there is by creating a system where they have to perform, and then they have to work at it, just like you did when you were coming through your training. You're creating something there which, and you found it yourself in your personal life, you were extremely proud of getting to the point you got to. If they're working hard to get there, you don't just turn up and say I'm interested, and you get a gun and off you go.
Yeah.
Adding this to it not only, of course, is the training and the safety and the theory and everything important to the way you do things, but adding that sense of team building, the camaraderie, the respect, and the regime and all of that to it, then I think that's just an incredible way to imagine how proud they'd be to say, I'm part of this and I'm making a difference.
Yeah. And excuse my ignorance, John, but what are you training them for? What would their conditions be? Would they be remote a lot of the time, or would they be like, how do they patrol? Is it day by day, or is it like over a week, or is it, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it's day by day. So we're going to have enough rangers to cover the whole ground and have their specific region.
Cool.
Where they're going to be. So it's really, they're going to be in control of their area.
Okay.
So we're training them for a number of things, and most of it's surrounding just the bush. There's going to be a little bit of combatives and stuff like that. But really it's knowing your environment.
Yep.
And I think, the whole time we're doing this, like how I did with my last 13 guys, I educate them along the way, because they're not going to work as hard. They're not going to be as passionate about it. They're not going to care nearly as much if they don't understand why this is so important. And so that's something that, like, even after like a day, if something comes to mind, like I'll sit the guys down and I'll have a chat with them, and give them like a little life lesson and let them know what they're doing, and that they don't know it, but they're the forefront of our environment and our livelihoods, across the globe. And they're getting a lot of attention right now. And, and I get them a little excited because I pull out my phone and I start filming them, and I'm like, guys, a lot of people are going to see this and they love it. They go crazy.
Yeah, that's how that can help for sure. I'm sure that can help.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's great. Sometimes I give them my phone and they record themselves like singing and stuff, and people love that. There's really not this connection.
Is this on your Instagram or the Facebook?
I think I might have put them as stories, but I can probably send them over to you. I think I have them.
Yeah.
They're funny. It's
because I mean, obviously, in the what we'll be doing is pushing this through our social media, but and we'll put all the links in on a show notes page and everything. So I think people will love to see this. They'd love to follow Instagram and see this for themselves. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they love it, and the goal too is it's really to create an economy that's thriving, or at least getting a lot in return for protecting their heritage, and I think once they know exactly what they're doing is when they become more proud of what they're doing. Yes. And that just makes the project that much more successful.
Exactly right. That's exactly right, mate. It's not if you drive around in this car for 8 hours, I'll give you money and then you can go home. It's when they realize the magnitude of what they're doing, I think that's great, because you really then they're going to be advocates. They're going to go back to their villages, tell their friends, families, and say, no, this is what I do and this is why I do it. Did you know this is happening? Did you know this is happening in our own backyard? I think that's a fantastic way. And as you said right back at the start, education is a fundamental pillar of what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys you'll really find this interesting, but actually half the guys we have, at least half of the 13, used to be poachers.
Wow.
They used to be bushmeat poachers.
Wow.
And there will be times where we'll come across some poachers that'll be good at what they do, but haven't been doing it too long, and they're there just to feed their family. And there's a lot of instances where, they'll poach for the bushmeat because bushmeat is more expensive. There's more value to it.
Right.
And they've been doing it a long time, and we won't take them for whatever reason. But if we feel there's good intentions and it's going to their family and they're not selling it or as much,
yep.
Then I will, before I hand them over to the law, we'll talk to them and say, listen, you're really good in the bush. You know,
Yeah.
you haven't been out here that often. You know, if you want a salary, we put you through some training and you get through a little bit of a selection, then, you can have a job and get paid on a monthly basis instead of come out here and risk you having to go to jail. And that's been putting foods on their families' tables for, since, we started. So, and it completely wipes out. Like, we don't have to train them for the bush anymore. It's really just combatives and stuff like
yeah,
that.
they've already got those
They know
skills.
what the hell they're doing. Yeah.
That's incredible. That is interesting.
That's,
mate.
if it comes to like an elephant or a rhino poacher, that's something we obviously won't do. That's way too criminal.
Absolutely.
And,
They've crossed the
and
line.
a lot of those people, like I said before, are involved in a lot of other, criminal actions and things like that and have records. But for these guys, I mean, I think a little bit more than half of our guys used to be poachers. And I think that says something, that's, so to that extent where you got the bushmeat trade and stuff like that, a lot of that is poverty, so you can solve that. You just have to have an open mind to it, and it was hard for me to do it first too. And I didn't really understand it until Daryl, who I'm partnered with out there, kind of told me about it and then how he'd done it in the past. And it was really successful. And so we did that. And we're crushing it. There hasn't been a gunshot in our reserve since we started after we got the first 3 weeks we were there with the team together. And there were gunshots every night. We arrested all the syndicates in the area, recovered ivory, and since late August, there hasn't been a gunshot.
Right.
So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, so John, I'd love to ask a couple of stupid questions. In fact, I do that all the time, but at
You
the
don't
moment,
really have any other ones, do you?
so perhaps you said that a lot, like perhaps I assume that a lot of the poaching is for trade in ivory or perhaps trophies. Which one of my stupid questions is, why are lions perhaps so valuable? If you said a lot of them are taken, but then at the same time you say a lot of it's for bush meat, like the majority of I suppose the the animals getting culled is for that, is it?
Wait, say that last part again.
So is bush meat like the majority of the
poaching
that goes on? Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, definitely.
And
at
that's
least where we are.
And can you explain why that happens and what bush meat is all about? Because it's a new term for me, and I'm imagining that it's just because like hunting occurs for food and survival.
Yeah, that's essentially it. It's just wild meat. It's wild, fresh meat.
Yeah,
it's more valuable. So when a guy comes out and shoots a couple of impala or inyala or whatever, any kind of antelope,
they get a reward for that. Yeah,
it's worth more money, so they can just go back and sell it. That's it. And so that's
right.
the majority of it. It's really,
and so
most of the time it's nonviolent. They're not. You're not a threat, at all. So when you arrest them, it's pretty civil. It can be a chase, but most of the time you're not. No one's going to turn around and shoot at you.
Yeah. And that's because of poverty. You say that in some ways it's because of a poverty situation, or because there's not, the food's available. Or okay, cool. That's really interesting for me because obviously our assumptions and some of these are you'd call them myths, or you'd call them whatever, that that's what it's all about. But it's as you say, the larger portion is because of that. Yeah,
it is. I mean, like wire snares. You guys are familiar with the wire snare. That's the same thing. It can be from a gun. It can be from a snare. But essentially they're there to get the meat.
Yes.
Sweet.
Do you think there's a lack of understanding within the people that are poaching for bushmeat and those communities? Do you think they think that they're perhaps a small amount of the problem, and they don't realise exactly what they're doing to their own country and those resources?
Some of them do and some of them don't. I've had conversations with them before about the damage they're doing, like simple things that they can understand, like, guys, listen, if you keep doing this, what's going to be left for your kids?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, those are simple things that I try and put across them, and they know, but I mean, there's just no room for employment out there. There's nothing, especially where we are. So the good thing is that farming is something we want to invest in heavily, because then they could sustain themselves and feed themselves, and it might reduce the poaching because they'll have access to food. And if it's something we can help, then that's something we're going to do.
Yep.
But the ones that think that they're not a problem and we'll just keep doing it, like we've had guys come back and back. Not to me personally, but I've caught a poacher before. And my game scouts have been like, yeah, we know him. Like, we've caught him in the area before. Like, that hasn't learned their lesson.
Not getting the idea.
Yeah, and those are the people that will, then we arrest them, we call the authorities, and they take them in. So it varies. Some do, and some don't, and some don't care. And it's so fast that they can wipe out an entire population of antelope. It's so fast. Like guys sometimes will come in and camp there for 3 days to a week, and they'll kill 20 animals, cut them up, take the meat, and that's 20 animals gone in less than a week. And it's that's not to mention all the other poachers that are doing the same thing.
Yep.
And then once they're gone, everything's gone. It's like you guys know how ecosystems work. It's a domino effect.
Not
exactly. And also the time that it takes to regenerate 20 animals is it's not 2 months, it's not 3, it's not even 2 years. Like it's a phenomenal amount of time to
it's wiping out generations.
In an with no science behind it whatsoever. It's just I see it, I shoot it, I take it. There's not even we were talking about the US conservation where it's very calculated and measured, but this is just a more of a greed thing. It's incredible. Hey, I thought we could lighten the mood 2 ways.
Puppies is probably one of them.
Puppies is one, and just a little swill of your iced tea. Look at that.
There it is.
How have you kept the ice for so long? I just don't understand.
It's in a thermos, and I gotta stop drinking it because I really gotta pee. So that's why you guys haven't heard it in a while. The last podcast we did, Craig, I'm just kind of letting a bit of behind the scenes information out here.
Oh, the magic.
I'm talking to the to the person like I am right now with you, and then Craig's voice disappears for a few minutes off the. He's just not part of the podcast for a while because he's three beers down.
Don't tempt me now. Come on, let's not talk about this because I'm sure we're all holding on.
So if at any point it's just
lucky,
you
got
and
another guy to help.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
You're on your own over there.
Yeah, if you tap out, we've got a big problem.
Yeah, we'll talk amongst ourselves if you have to.
We've done podcasts where Craig and I talk, and they're absolute rubbish.
We need a safe word or something so you can leave, right? And we'll just keep talking, telling jokes or whatever.
We're good for now.
We're good for a minute?
Good. Fire away.
Good.
A couple of minutes.
Okay. Belgian Malinois, I think it's pronounced, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are... I do like them. They're a strange-looking dog, but I've actually been looking at getting a second dog, and they were one of the ones that I've been looking at a few months ago, coincidentally, and then I saw them pop up in the press release I was sent, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool because they're well known for their intelligence and amongst 100 other amazing things that they do. Tell us a little bit about the dogs and the dog training and the canine unit.
Yeah, sure. We so they're Belgian Malinois. They're extremely intelligent. They're very energetic. And I was with these dogs. The first time I came across them was 2 years ago in Zimbabwe. I'd gone out to visit a team and really, get to learn. Like I was explaining in the beginning of the podcast, it was one of the teams that I went out to learn from. And they had a team of 4. It was just a dog team. And then they had other game scouts, other than the ones that had the dogs. But the dog program was phenomenal. And 2 of the dogs came from this organization that we partner with called Dogs for Wildlife out of the UK. And one of the dogs, they were both really impressive, but one of the dogs was just a stellar dog. The dog's name is Rogue. And every day I got to go out on, whether it was patrols or whether it was just a mock training situation where we'd send out a poacher to run for 3 to 8 Ks, and then the dog and the team would track behind. And that was it was incredible. The advantages you have with the dog team are really astronomical. So
what are those advantages, mate? Just for, I'm curious, but I'm sure other people are thinking, what's so different about having a dog amongst your team?
It makes tracking at night possible. Tracking at night is very hard to do without having a light. Sometimes you can pinpoint a gunshot and know if you've got like a limited amount of trails on the reserve, you probably know where they came in and where they're going out of. It's usually the same trail.
Okay.
So that does help, but if it's someone that goes off the ordinary trail and goes shooting an animal and it's going to exit a different way, the dogs just make that possible to track. Because at night, like, you risk, if you want to track, you've got to open a light up, and then that just gives away your position. It could be from 100, 200 meters out, wherever you are. So the dogs completely, get rid of that disadvantage, and they can, a dog can smell if you're doing a perimeter check, and you come across fresh spoor footprints. Those dogs can smell body odor, from that's 3 hours old. So they'll pick up on it, and then you're not, like, a good tracker can track at a fast walking pace and see the tracks about 6 to 10 feet in front of him, and that's a very good tracker.
Yep.
A dog can do this at almost a running pace.
Yeah.
So your advantage is just, they skyrocket.
Yeah,
it's a total game changer.
I
Not
watched
to
the
mention
video.
the deterrent already. Just having the dogs.
Yeah, true. I watched the video, and the pace at which this dog was tracking the guy was at a full run. Trying to keep up with this dog that was it knew exactly where it was going. There was no question. It's fascinating. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, and that word gets around so fast. As soon as you bring a dog in, and one person from the village sees it, everyone knows by tomorrow.
That's,
you know what I mean?
That's great. What a deterrent. That point right there never occurred to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Out of everything I've read, like, I understand. I just didn't. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for putting that into perspective. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And that comes at a cost, though.
Oh, heavy.
It's not cheap.
It's just like any other canine dog. But I mean, when they're done with their, it's like 6 to 8 months training, intense training, and it starts for these guys, the puppies, it'll start slowly in about a month. But at the end of the day, they're worth $10,000 a piece.
Yeah.
That's for, especially for a nonprofit, doing what we do in conservation where there's no money. That's a big burden. So we've started to sponsor a puppy initiative on our website where every month you can, put whatever amount of money you can into
That's
it, and
fantastic.
every dollar from that. So at the end of every month, like, I'll go in and find who only sponsored a puppy, and every dollar will be taken out and they'll go to the dogs.
That's great.
And that pays for food bills, vet bills, their training, and all that.
People love
we've
dogs.
It's easier to raise money for dogs than humans. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I get it. I totally get it. But people we got one to fully adopt a dog already, and that costs $12,500, and you get to name the dog. You get to have virtual meetings with the dog. You get to come out and stay at the reserve for free and see what the dog does on a daily basis and who it's defending.
That's awesome.
So we have, and you get to name the dog, which is neat. That's like my favorite part. But we want to make sure that all of our dogs' names are pretty badass.
That's right.
Like Rogue, Justice,
Polaris,
well,
the kind of names you'd give a wrestler or something. Like,
exactly.
The Undertaker.
Exactly. So it's super exciting. The pups are now, I think, a week and a half old, 2 weeks old maybe. So they're still laying down a lot. Eyes are closed most of the time, but they're what the videos, we're gonna start pumping out there once they start getting up and wrestling around, and that's what's really gonna get people to be attached to it. And I think the sponsorships will start flowing in.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean that's such a cool idea to use them to pay for themselves. That's incredible. I mean, people say that sex sells. It does, but holy crap, puppies do too.
It's the amount of messages I get when I put up a puppy picture is incredible.
That's great.
That looks good. That looks great.
I have
we're stoked.
I have no problem with you guys exploiting the dogs because exploiting is not the right word, because the money's going straight back to them.
Yeah, that's a great cause.
And then the advantages, from what you've told us, the advantages of having more dogs on the ground is saving animals.
I can see that.
Yeah,
it's a
animals protecting
no-brainer.
animals. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great, mate.
Yeah, well, I might get one, personally for myself. We're getting 4. There might be 5.
Oh, look, I think if you're eventually going to live over there, you'll need your own dog.
Yeah. I think
Chaos
that's
or something like that it'll be called.
Yeah, we're definitely stoked. So they should be ready to go by, if everything goes to plan, goes as planned, and we have the selection course in the second quarter of 2021, the dogs will be ready by then. So everything on that timeline is perfect. We're just the funding now is just really,
Yep.
really crippling us.
Yeah. Yep.
I
understand that. I think you're giving people multiple opportunities, tugging on various different heartstrings. And, for me, it was the trucker's cap heartstring, and I'll be getting one of those, right? So but each to their own. Now I'm thinking, gee, do I walk around with my cool hat and sponsor a puppy? So that's great. I love that. That's a great angle. It's so easy to promote.
You come out down the road and we have the hiking stuff, and you'll meet the dogs. You can go out and we'll do the drills with the dogs and things like that, and do patrols. That's something we're definitely going to offer because people love that stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea as well. Is the diversification of what you're utilizing the space for. You touched earlier on having accommodation there and running yoga retreats. All that stuff just goes hand in hand with the wilderness, as does hiking, as does kind of multi-day treks across the property to, you set up, let's say for argument's sake, it's a 3-day trek across, then you set up 2 kick-ass campsites, permanent campsites, and that's where you stop with these people. And I can just see, we've done a lot of similar kind of hiking in Australia, and I've hiked in the US as well, and you get these situations where you hike from cabin to cabin, and you design the hike around key the way I kind of put it is payoffs. So you say, oh, well, here's a fantastic water source, and we'll make sure that when we design the hike, we go near that water source, because that's a real money shot there. That's where people are going to sit down, and they're going to take half an hour break and take a few photos, and then our next stop will be here because this is the edge of a cliff and it's a great scene. That stuff really resonates with people. It certainly excites me. So can't wait to get out there.
And that's it all goes back and ties into education. The yoga will be attached to the education. When you're going out for a bushwalk and doing an adventure like that, and you're with a couple of the game scouts, they're going to be educating you the whole time if you have any questions and things like that. So that's like on foot, on the ground. That's the best education you're going to get.
Oh, I totally agree. I've only been guided on one hike before. There's a tiny island off the bottom of Australia called Tasmania. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
I've heard of it,
absolutely beautiful place. And I was lucky enough to go on a guided hike down there. And as you say, when you're with somebody who's done that multiple times, you're walking along a trail and the guide would just stop and say, hang on a second. And she walks a few meters into the bush and comes back and goes, oh, here's these snowberries, try these. And we're eating these berries. Oh, this is incredible. I can't believe it. And then, or you stop at a lookout and say, oh, we're gonna take half an hour here and just soak it all in. Like when you've got that guide there, when you're giving people the opportunity to learn about that country over there, the animals, the wildlife, and I'm no doubt, the topic of conservation is going to come up throughout those trips, which is valuable for those people to bring home and raise awareness there. So
and even the relationship back and forth with the guide or with the rangers, that'll be, people will love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get them all separate Instagram accounts and as some people, I mean, you might think that sounds sad or whatever, but it's not. It's promoting something so special. And as you said before, people love it when they hear directly from the rangers. Well, there's a reason for that. It's good content. It's feel good stuff. I think.
That's what we're trying to do is put them, really in the spotlight. And I think that relationship with, there's not many of it, is be able to have like our social media platform tied right to our rangers, where you're going to hear right from our rangers. You're going to see our rangers close up, on a story basis. Like we're going to be putting it up every day. and making that connection between the people who support us and the guys they're supporting.
That's right. It's not John Garcia tells everyone about everything. It's no, I'm handing over to the guys that are here doing it. I'm handing over to the guys whose children are going to be born here. And that's and what I love as well is if somebody's spending that money on a yoga retreat, if we're spending that money coming over there and doing doing a hike, that's not so you can go and buy your own luxury jet and
exactly.
cruise around the world giving talks. It's so you can take that money and put it straight back in there.
Yeah, that's it, man. And, like I said, I'll be living out there, so I don't want to be rich. I'm rich now. I love where I am. I love Africa, and I have a passion for what I'm doing. So, I mean, I consider myself to be really well off. I'm not out to make money here. I'm just out to live, the fullest life. And I think, at the end of the day, I think I've seen enough to know this and be able to think about it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be your material possessions and all the money you made that's going to make the difference and put a smile on your face before your life's about to end. It's going to be the difference you make in the lives of others. I think that's the most valuable currency there is.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people need to see that. And I think because we're young and have so much energy behind us, I think it's a movement we can start. There are a lot of people out right now that do see this crisis going on that want to change the world. And I think, we can light a lot of those candles too. And if we get enough energy and people behind it, it's really only a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree.
Thinking positive.
You've done well so far.
It's tough, man. In this world, in the conservation, it's like every step forward is 2 steps back.
Yeah.
But it's just that never stop mentality, which you have to have, because if we do, it's over.
I'm
that's the way
guessing
we
there's
see
about
it.
100 times you could have tapped out and go, this is actually too hard. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not in the books. It's not because of the dire emergency that we're facing right now. It's just if we stop, it's how are we going to explain this to our kids? It goes back to that question.
Yes.
There's no way we can do that, and we're all responsible in one way or another, for making this world a better place and giving back to the world that gives you everyday life and your loved ones and everything that you have and your possessions. We all have to give back and play some role in that. Yeah.
And this, through this podcast, I don't want to put a guilt trip on everybody listening, but you've just now been given an opportunity by listening to this podcast to become involved actively. So, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And, in today's world, we're so used to take, and in this consumeristic technological society that, I feel like a lot of us don't know what it feels like to give, and that it's way better. It's a way better feeling. Yep. And it just makes the world a better place. And, I think a lot more people need to experience that. And that's why, like, when we make these trips for the school out in Zambia, it's going to be affordable for everybody. We're not going to soar prices so that we can make money. The best way to change the world is to get people to experience what you're doing, right? And to experience what they're changing.
Yes, that's a very good point.
If you cut that to a small amount of the people that can do it, you're not going to have a difference. You're not going to change the world. You're not going to light more candles.
That's right. Especially if you narrow it to the people that in the top tier can only afford it, because they're not the people that are likely to be wanting to give anyway.
No, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, even if you don't have a lot of money, we'll be willing to work with you and negotiate if it's something you really want, so it's, you've got to make compromises for that if you want to, reach that level of change. Yeah.
And going back to my favorite business name of all time, the Dung Beetle School, what sort of education are they offering?
There's a bunch. So Les is a level 3 field guide. This guy knows more about the African bush from the soil to the elephants than anyone I've ever met. So he teaches things like scouting, ecology, ethology, anti-poaching. There's a number of different courses you can go through. And it's fun. It's not like you're waking up with a notebook and you're sitting down in front of a teacher. Like, you're learning about stuff you obviously care about because you went there to do it. But it's in a fun environment. Like, I remember, like, you're sitting around a fire in the morning if it's cold out, and he's got a board in front of him, and you're just talking about wildlife.
Yeah.
You know, you're asking your own questions. You're in a small group of 10 people, you know, so there's a lot of back and forth, and that lasts for like an hour, hour and a half, and then after that, you go out into the bush, and either on foot or on a vehicle, and he'll point things out to you that, you know, you'll find very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's all like in good fun. And then once you get to a certain level, you'll start to, like, if you do anti-poaching and you go through all the animals, the wildlife, you need to know basic ecology, you know, and the animal behavior and approaching animals and when to back off and things like that. So you put all that after you learn it to the test. Like, you'll go out and then with a group, and then he'll look at you and be like, all right, now you're going to go walk up to those buffalo and you're going to tell us when it's time that we have to turn around. So
that's cool.
The males will come to the front, the females and the calves will go in the middle, and then you've got to then read, okay, when am I crossing that boundary? When is the time to step off?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people make that mistake that haven't trained that way in the bush, and they get killed by buffalo, you know, or or whatever.
Yep.
So that's all something, you know, that gives everyone the opportunity to really learn, and that's something you never forget.
Yeah, that's stuff.
You know,
that's
especially for your first time.
Yeah.
So
what's your thoughts
like
on that, Craig? Craig doesn't know, John, because he wasn't here.
Yeah, I didn't
He thought he got away with it.
I really didn't think you would
Thought he got away with it.
And don't tell John, he's busting. So
Yeah, man, you're a lucky guy. I'm sitting here struggling right now.
Well, he just told us the best part of the whole podcast, and you weren't here, so you deserve that. You absolutely.
mate, you said Dung
deserve
Beetles,
that.
and I just had to go. All right, so I guess we should honestly give John the peace of mind of going to the bathroom. What
John,
do you
do you need to tap out for a minute, mate? Are you starting to sweat there?
Give me less than 30 seconds, so you guys can go ahead and start talking. I'll be back in a second.
You
I
go
reckon.
for it.
All right, you guys there?
Yeah, you feel better, mate?
All right, we're back at it. Feeling good.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, good. We got another hour and a half to go, so good.
No.
Hey, I'm sure you've had. I mean, you've told us a lot of the highlights over there. There was a story about, and it's actually a video of you going out to see these three little baby elephants. When I say baby, they're the size of a car, but they were small compared to their mother. What was the story behind that?
So there were a couple elephants that needed rescue, and there was a lodge that was willing to take them.
Sorry to butt in. What designates, or what defines they needed rescue? Like who
They
decides
were either
that?
orphaned or elephants on occasion. I know people don't like to hear this, but elephants on occasion, for whatever reason that we don't really understand, will leave behind a calf.
Yeah, I've
Maybe
seen
they
it on
think it's unfit,
documentaries.
unhealthy.
Yep.
And it just happens. So it'll start lagging behind the herd, and the herd will just decide at some point to just let go, and the mother. And so orphanages will then take, you know, the elephant, and if they think it's got a real chance at life or it's not severely injured or whatever. So this lodge decided to take them, and I didn't even know it was happening. I had gotten out there because I'm family friends with the owner. So when we got out there, the elephants just came in, and I happened to be there. And then for the next 3 to 4 weeks was kind of a reintroduction, because they were fully wild. And the elephant on this property, on this reserve, is accustomed to humans. It's always watched out for by humans. It's followed throughout the day to make sure she doesn't get in trouble in any villages. And she'd been without another elephant companion for years. She lost a calf and her bull some years before. The calf died from snake bite, and the bull turned like super violent and aggressive towards everybody, and it just became a really big problem. So I think it had to be put to sleep, which was sad. I wasn't around for that. But so for 3 to 4 weeks, I got to be a part of that rehabilitation process, which was pretty amazing. They were, I think the eldest was 4 to 5 years old, so pretty big. And so it was really interesting. So what we did was we put all three elephants that I think were from 3 different herds in the same little pen to get used to their caretakers. And they had a sleeping pen as well that was next door with the matriarchal mother who was going to take over the adoption of these three. So the goal was to have them near each other where they could smell and hear each other.
Yeah,
For
sure.
a couple weeks, kind of like when you put a fish and it's plastic on top of on top of the water for a couple hours. It's kind of like that.
Yep.
And then once we felt confident that all the calves were doing well, they were being fed, they were all actually eating, and they seemed to be healthy. And they also had calmed down from their environment, and they knew that the mother was there. Then once we felt confident, we decided to release the 3 to officially meet the mother. I think it was 4 weeks in, and it was incredible. It was like they'd known each other their whole life. And now they're just thriving. Still, that was like 2 years ago, I think. So they're still thriving to this day, and it was really something else. That's something I'd like to partner with an organization out there as well that I'm looking at. It's called Game Rangers International that does that. They capture the elephants in the wild that are orphaned because their mothers or parents were shot, their families were shot.
Yep.
Or for whatever reason. That's something we'd like to do and offer our volunteers that come out an opportunity to be able to, have that experience too. Because once you see the amount of orphans that are out there too, it's just another thing where you really grasp how big the problem is.
Right. And when you can secure this extra land, you obviously have an opportunity to have a safe environment to release these animals onto. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. We can do that. We can open programs for that. There is one close by, so we'll probably stick with them. So if we were to come across an orphan for whatever reason, that's who it would go to.
I understand, because they've got the expertise in that reintroduction. Is that?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. That's something I'd like to learn anyway and get to know. I'd like to have a full-on rehabilitation clinic for injured and orphan wildlife down the road. That's one of the goals. But for right now, like that's something, I'll just send volunteers to. It's not really something I can focus on at this point.
Yeah, I understand. Yep.
But in any sector, we'd like to help out where we can.
Yeah.
I'm definitely very passionate about that.
That's fantastic, mate. You've given us, throughout the podcast, you've given us a lot of different examples of ways people can help. I was going to say help you, but really they're helping the animals. Would you be able to just recap that before we go ahead and kind of wrap this up? Are you able to just recap on the different ways that people can get involved, either with creating awareness or donating money, which, as we've established, is probably the most important thing?
Yeah, donating money is, right now it's definitely the most important thing, but secondly, people, they ask, how can I don't have the monetary funds to do this. It's like, well, if you've got social media, you've got a platform. So if you can push any word out there, if you really care about it, you'll do it. And that's one of the things that drives me nuts in this, because people, especially when I started this, they tried to really attach themselves to it because they knew how good of a cause it was, and they fell in love with it was almost like they were attracted to the passion.
Yeah.
And because of that, they jump on board, but it only after a couple of weeks tells you that these people aren't really passionate. They've got these great ideas, but they actually don't really care, and that's something that's really frustrating. So I had a lot of volunteers come on board that just within a couple of weeks were just like, it does get frustrating. You find out, who's really going to put a lot into this, and who really does give a crap about it.
Yep.
But aside from that, we're going to have, donations are the best. Putting things out there via social media, there's always a way to help, and businesses ask all the time. It's like, if people that have businesses, like, listen, if you really cared, you'd find a way to integrate your expertise or your business to conservation. There's always a way to do it, whether it's
absolutely.
monetary funds or partnering in some sort of collaboration that helps both parties. It's almost always possible.
Yeah.
And I think we all have the ability, at that level to make that change. But other than that, we really do. We'll have the volunteer program set up by hopefully next year, where both ex-military members and veterans and ordinary citizens can come out and go through dung beetle. They can get involved with the rangers, and those are the people I like to really call conservationists, because they're the ones that want to put themselves on the ground to learn more.
Yep.
And to give back, and so that's a program we hope to have up and running next year, to bring people out there and show them what we have and what we're doing and the overall scope of the project. So it's all a lot of great and exciting stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
It really just all goes back to the funding at this very time, to get it together to start this.
It didn't occur to me earlier until you just said it then, what a great transition it is for veterans to then feel like the skills that they've acquired in the military are an advantage to to them, and not just something that they can no longer use because they've got to get a job driving trucks or something, you know. That's kind of cool, you know, to for them to feel like they're needed because of the work that they've done for their country. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And they love it. They love being able to teach what they know, you know, and it's and especially for someone who just gets back from overseas, it's almost like a relaxing period too, you know. So I mean, we do, because I get a lot of messages from military guys like, listen, do you have any jobs open? And we don't, like, we like to strictly point out that all the money that we have and we raise is going towards employing the indigenous. So we only hire them to be anti-poaching rangers and whatnot. There might be a position open in the future here and there for, a friend or an ex-military guy or whatever to run a certain position. Like right now, I'm so busy out there now that I've got a volunteer from the Marines that a lot of times he just handles the day-to-day stuff with the Rangers and the training and stuff like that, so I can do the business stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
So things like that, and they love that, you know, and so we do hope to have a separate platform for veterans to do that instead of, there's an organization in South Africa, I'm not going to name any names, but they're also American, they're also ex-military, but they're just full of crap. Right. And they pay these guys like $3,200 a month to do anti-poaching work on a trophy hunting farm.
So they're only protecting the assets.
And they're not even protecting anything. They're doing a lot of things illegally, but they're paying their guys $3,200 a month to do this job. I could pay 30 Rangers to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the rate, with their currency, and I think it's like $100 a month, $120 a month per Ranger. So I can put food on their families' tables, 30 of them for the amount you're spending on one veteran, you know what I mean? That now knows your organization's bullshit and doesn't want to be there anyway. Yeah. So
I think, I mean, we often don't like to talk about money. I'm not saying us, I'm saying in general, people tend to shy away from it. But you just spelled out very clearly that, you could almost, $120 a month and you're sponsoring a Ranger who's protecting, such a valuable asset. That's incredible. And the other thing that I noticed on the website was the transparency around what you're doing or hoping to do with this money. And it was just so innocent, and it was spelled out on the page, and it was things like, we need a Toyota four-wheel drive, and we're going to buy it secondhand, and it'll be approximately this much. And you talked about obviously the river crossing earlier. That was in there, and the transparency and the openness. Like, the more that I unpacked this after the first time I read the email, the more and more I fell in love with the, and talking to you has just capped that off, because I can just tell how much this means to you, and how genuine you are about it. Your dedication, mate, it's second to none. It's admirable.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, and it's I do. There's a part of it that I hope people don't think that, like, I'm trying to be a hero here, or it's like I'm using this platform because I have that advantage, and I want to be able to highlight the work of the Game Rangers and the other teams that don't have access to this platform.
No,
so
I don't think
we can go help them.
It doesn't come across like that at all, mate. You've spelled out several times that you'd rather have your feet on the ground and work in the background, and eventually maybe you'll have a spokesperson, a face of the business, and you can get on with what you love doing, and that's catching the bad guys.
Catching the real bad guys, the guys at the top. That's the goal, but it's tricky, because I'm a foreigner moving into these countries that is doing these things, and now I have a spotlight on me, and it's like I'm picking the people's pockets that are sitting at the top making a lot of money. So it does become a dangerous thing where I'd like to be out of that spotlight too, especially when I'm out in these countries. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it gets dangerous, So the more so depending on what country you're in, but it's tricky. You always have to be protected, and just watch your backs. It's serious. I mean, the illegal wildlife trade is tied in with international terrorism, human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapon trafficking. They're all interconnected. Wow. So it's it's a big deal, and we need help, or it's just gonna continue to get worse.
Yeah, mate. I'd go ahead and say right now that this is the heaviest topic we've ever discussed on the podcast, but I'm 100% grateful for your time and your honesty, not pulling any punches. It's fantastic, mate. I can't say enough good things. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
You've given us so much of your time. I don't know. This one, Craig will know that I'm rarely lost for words, John. I could talk the leg off a chair, but I'm struggling with this just because of the purity of what you're trying to achieve and the honesty there. I'm struggling to kind of find the right words to really just say thanks. I mean, thanks. My kids will thank you for what you're doing. Everyone.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to take credit. You've said that many times. You know that the Rangers are doing the hard work as well. And as far as I'm concerned, thanks to all of them. So, mate, excellent job. Keep it up. We'll support it in any way that we possibly can.
I think Tom's done a great job, and I think that such a great conversation, such a great chat. It's opened my eyes. Tom did a fair bit of research, and I was just willing to listen along to this.
Lazy, really. Just willing to be lazy.
Lazy, he said. He said that several times. And I said, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. And I've really learned a lot, and I think it's such an amazing topic, and one that a lot of our listeners will love to hear, and I thought sure they'll reflect on it, and I reckon this is what I'm going to think about a lot, because it's not so obvious, and it's got many layers to what we're talking about.
It's not all rainbows and unicorns either. It's not that it's not the feel good podcast of the year.
No,
but if we want to maintain, just like if we want to maintain the wilderness areas that we hike in, then why wouldn't we want to maintain the animals that live within those environments as well?
Yeah, I mean, without them, it's not alive.
Well, then that's exactly right, and the environment's going to perish anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 100%. like we've said, it affects all of us, and I want to thank you guys too. You guys are an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with. And I'm glad you guys got me before I was back out in Africa, which is probably going to be next week.
Me too.
For a long time. So, definitely stay in touch. This is it's been awesome. You guys are great. And I'll ship you guys out your stuff whenever you want it. So pick out what you guys want.
Yeah, I'll be hitting you up about that.
Send me an email.
No worries.
And then I can put the stuff together, have my guy do it, and get it over to you guys as soon as possible.
Yeah, we want to start spreading that brand on our social media as well. Fantastic cause.
Is it the same? Is it just Hike or Die on Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's Hike or Die pretty much everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and their website's hikeordie.com.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely send you guys a follow and check it out.
Yeah, we'll connect on all of that, and when this does go to air, we'll be tagging all the appropriate. We'll tag you guys as well in every possible way we can.
Yeah, thanks so much for the chat, John, and much respect for all your work, man. That's really cool to get so close to this chat and hear what you're doing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing it. I mean, that's the point. If we can bring this to people's lives, you guys are giving us another avenue to do that. So, like I said, it's a collaborative effort to make change. And this is how you guys are doing it, and that's great. I really, really appreciate that. We got to get more people to sign up to do stuff like this to get the word out there.
Yeah, look, it's the least we can do at this point. But
cool.
This is also my first podcast with my new gear too, so I love the experimental stuff I got.
Yeah, no, it's been great. You're sounding really good, mate.
Yeah,
so you're ready to go.
Make sure you bring that iced coffee with you every time, because it sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a tropical
maybe
environment.
Just a cup next to me next time. I'll just have to put my hand over the microphone.
Good on you, mate. Perfect. All right, you look after yourself and safe travels when you get back out there, and just keep doing what you're doing, mate. You're a legend.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, fellas. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon.
All right. See you later, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about Hike or Die TV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by Hikeordie.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.
The interlude song played in this episode was On Christmas Eve, performed by the artist D. Van Key, and used under the Creative Commons license CC BY NC SA 4.0. If you loved it, it's available for free download. We'll put a link in the show notes.